I feel like people have actually loosened up with that a bit over the past few years, or at least since the blackout.
Yeah.
It seemed like at first everyone was still kind of holding on to the privacy factor of not letting them know or divulging any information about who they were online. It seems like people have kind of broken in and gotten a little more comfortable, though, as we've not had online.
Well, because now it's like you throw out the online screen name and you're like, yeah, I was so-and-so, and you're like, well, yeah, I kind of remember that. Did we used to play maybe like 100 rebuys or something?
Right,
You're
but
like,
our games
yeah.
have changed too, and eventually it's going to be a few years past, and you know it's not even going to be applicable information, as all of our games will have hopefully changed by then a little bit.
We have a hand, but no information.
Yeah, that's right. Well, cards are in the air, and we'll have our graphics corrected for you in a little while. But for the moment, we'll just try and follow along with the action, and sure we'll be able to figure out everything that's going on, as we know that we're playing 50,000, 100,000, and the pot has developed with Mike probably raising pre-flop, and if he's checked this flop, I'm assuming on an ace-rag-rag flop that Andy 3-bet him pre-flop. So we'll find out.
The pink chips are 25,000.
So that's what about, and the blues are 5, was it?
5,000. The yellows must be 100.
Yeah.
I'm gonna assume.
That, I believe, is a bet of 280,000 from Andy to Mike. There we go. This may have been a limped pot. I'm not quite sure what exactly happened here.
We'll get it working better in the on the next hands.
Limped pots on
Looks like
final tables, though.
Mike is going to get a nice little trap, though.
Yeah.
Because he has at least top pair. Top
He has
two
top
pair.
2 pair.
And Andy may fire out if he gets checked to enough. But it looks like Mike may lead here. Which I definitely don't like.
I don't like it one bit.
If you're going to try to trap the guy, there's no point in just like piling in the money on the turn whenever, especially when a bad card comes.
Yeah. Andy doesn't look like he's going to waste much time here.
I think the check call on the flop
showed.
leading the turn, it does look. I think that looks pretty strong.
I think
a lot of times.
I think, especially from guys who are a little less experienced, it's almost always the sign of strength.
Correct, right.
And I know for sure that I don't like Mike showing that hand there. I mean, you took kind of a unusual line, and then you revealed to your opponent.
Right to a straight.
So while he does avoid difficult spots, he pretty much makes it impossible to win a big pot.
Yeah. Action is folded over to Andy here, and he's tossed in a raise. I think it's either the min raise or to 225,000 on Matt Salzberg in the small blind. He's going to let it go.
I imagine Matt's going to be shoving or folding.
Yeah.
Most hands he's going to play.
Especially out of the small. Now Matt Hagen looks like he's going to make the call. And you were right about those yellow chips worth 100,000.
Yeah, Matt has a tough stack to play in the spot with about 30 big blinds. It's not. You can't be calling too often, but at the same time, you don't want to re-raise and then be in tricky spots. I mean, I guess you could re-raise and fold quite often, but with two other really short stacks, you don't want to go broke if you're in Matt's seat.
Definitely not.
If he was a shorter stack, then he could probably play much more aggressively, but as the middle stack, it's dicey.
Matt has checked the flop. We're not quite sure of the texture, but it's red. And Andy has fired out a bet of what looks to be around the same size. Matt has made the call. We'll go to the turn.
That's become much more standard, firing out a continuation bet that is about the same size as your pre-flop raise.
Yes, it has. Continuation bets have come down over the years.
Even the down betting, I've been seeing a lot the past few series I've been playing.
Yeah, like you make it 2 big blinds pre-flop and then make it 1.7 post-flop.
Right.
Well, the hand you're seeing is not correct. That's Matt Salzberg's hand, not Matt Hagen's hand. And Hagen is the one in the hand. Salzberg folded from the small. Meanwhile, Andy's going to fire a second barrel here with just ace high.
Andy bet 420,000.
I don't think if I was in Andy's shoes, I'd be applying too much pressure to Matt, because I think if Matt's going to check call the flop, he probably has something.
And it's probably not something that's folding on that card.
Yeah, that's a complete blank. And so if he had something on the flop, I really doubt he's going to fold here.
I also feel like Matt, as a result of being one of the more experienced high-volume players on the table, is going to be one of the least concerned about busting out early. Clearly, he's going to be aware of the ICM considerations, but I also don't think that he's going to make any hero folds or any risk-averse folds that some of the other players might make.
Right. I mean, this is a pretty good card to bluff the river, though, for Andy.
Yes, it is.
I mean, I don't really see how he can not bluff this river unless he has something like 2 pair.
Well, he's got ace high, so we know that he will almost certainly be firing. And he very quickly goes to his 100,000 chips.
So here, do you like a big bet, or do you like say an all-in type bet, or do you like a bet that's maybe half of your opponent's stack? Because they both apply a huge amount of pressure.
That's an interesting question. What just happened here?
He got called. That's what happened.
I think he just said call, right?
Right.
And I hope we can get a shot of Matt Hagen's hand.
That river bet was 920,000 on the river.
Yeah.
I imagine it's probably some two-pair type hand. It's gone. It's shoving with a jack would be kind of silly, or the top end of the straight, whatever that is. Was it a jack?
Yeah, it would have been a jack.
Shoving with a jack there's kind of silly because your opponent's going to fold a lot of the time. So because of that, you should probably make all your bluffs and value bets about the same size.
I think I agree with you here, John. I mean, and even if he bets half his stack, if Mike is wrong, he's going to have, about 8 or 9 blinds left or something like that.
It's not where he wants to be.
That's not where he wants to be, and he's still going to be by far the short stack of the table. And like you said, I don't think shoving the river... I think shoving the river on that card looks more like I'm trying to get you off than I'm trying to get you to call. On that card, it's such a great card for his range to represent that you should put a bet out there that looks like it wants to get called, not a bet that looks like you're showing them precisely what you're capable of. So he's not losing chips right in that moment by doing it, but he's absolutely losing future chips.
Yeah, this could definitely affect his equity in the tournament, especially at a table full of players who are going to be paying attention to every move he's making and everything. All the information that he's putting out at the table is going to be picked up by, I would say, most of the players at this table. So I don't think that showing is the way to go, especially here in a final table with experienced players all around.
When do you guys like to show when you're at the table? Is it just straight up never, or is there occasionally some purpose behind it?
I think for me, it just depends on the image that I'm trying to establish.
On tilt, if you show them a bluff or something like that, if it's going to make them really hate you. But I don't want people to hate me, so I tend to not show at all. Or if I do show, it's usually in spots where I do have a strong hand and it's in an irrelevant spot. So say someone raises, I 3-bet with ace-king and they fold. I'm like, yeah, look, I had ace-king. Which obviously I'm 3-betting with ace-king, and it doesn't show anything. It just shows... It doesn't show anything.
It attempts to portray honesty.
Right.
That information almost never, because most players aren't good enough to use that information, and then you get free information back, but you're going to use it to your advantage.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely you find those spots on the table where people are more so here to hang out and maybe chat with a pro and get some input on their play, and how did I play that one, and that was a cool hand, but those guys show away. They're not going to exploit you. All right, here we have James opening the pot to 210,000 with ace-jack. I believe he was second to act in this hand. And it is folded around to Matt Salzberg in the big blind, I believe.
He looks somewhat interested.
He does look a little interested.
Curious, perhaps?
Looks like he's going with it.
And he is going to go for it.
It's probably going to get called also, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I think that considering this is a 19 or 20-ish blind shove, maybe even a little less after paying an orbit, ace-jack is going to come to a call here.
It's not a great spot for ace-jack, really, if he's only shoving value hands, but I doubt he's shoving only value hands. I mean, even like this ace-9 here is effectively a value hand, but it's not an easy call. But I mean, if he's playing online, you just call, no problem.
15 blinds, you're just like, oh, I got that ace-jack, let's go.
Right, and six-handed especially.
Yeah.
Quite often you're going to be shown like ace-queen or, pocket tens or something like that. But whatever, you have to call with ace-jack here because you're getting amazing odds.
Yep, and James does make the call pretty naturally. He's going to find out that he's in front.
I mean, Matt's shove is fine there.
I think it's fine.
Unless he knows that James is not opening very often. If James is really tight, then it's probably not a good shove. But he has experience, and he has a lot of chips. So.
And that's I would agree with that versus anyone who we would think is a more experienced player, that would be an easier shove as compared to shoving over top of someone who we really don't know where they're at with their game.
Well, the ace, queen, 7, all spade flop helps James, who has the jack of spades. And the turn is the 9 of clubs. Wow. Oh. And so Matt Salzberg has managed to find one of his 2 clean outs, and now he just needs to hold out a queen, a spade, or a jack. He's going to award this pot to James, but otherwise Matt's going to double up. And it's an 8. Wow. Salzberg survives. He is going to double.
He's almost disgusted.
Takes a very nonchalant sip of his coffee as he does so. and he's going to double out. Got to this final table, and it does prove that although more so these days, the strategy in tournaments is to accumulate chips and to try and push every edge. There is some value to just being alive, because sometimes you just are that guy who 3 outs at the right moment or wins the flip and you're still alive, and then there's 2-3 tables left, you win another flip, and all of a sudden you're at the final table and you just need to run good for a little while, and then you can win like Ravi Raghavan.
That's how it's done.
You know?
Quite often the guys who do play the tighter game usually do get it in good whenever they get it in. So, they are blinding off a little bit here and there, but whenever they get it in, quite often they get it in good. Matt Salzberg didn't, but
still
a fine
spot.
shove,
yeah. Well, we have Mike opening the action here to 250,000. Andy calls behind with an ace-8 of hearts.
I feel like we don't even see the 2.5x all too often anymore. That's almost on the big side nowadays.
I know, isn't it? Maybe in level 1, you're like, hey, a 2.5x.
That's very 2012.
Well, I think the race sizes are purely need to be based on stack size. Whenever you're 300 big blinds deep, you don't really want to min raise.
Right, I agree with you, especially with antes out.
Right, so the first level of the tournament, I'm still making it 3x because I have 600 big blinds.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe even 3.5. Because you want to be able to build a big pot with your big hands.
Whoa, Captain Old School, 3.5.
Would you believe that? But yeah, you want to be able to build a big pot with big hands. And if the pot's tiny, you can't build a big pot. But whenever the stacks are short, you can still get your whole stack in by making it 2 big blinds pre-flop.
Now the flop comes 4-10-5 in this heads-up pot. Mike. Not sure what action he's taken here.
It is worth noting that Mike is probably the more amateur type
300,000
player, and he is the one that made it 2.5x pre-flop. So
yeah,
it's not too surprising, I guess. But really, it probably doesn't matter that much.
This final table not going well for Andy.
It does look that he has 2 of the bigger stacks to his left. Is that correct?
Who does?
Yes. Andy and
Jeremy.
Jeremy is one of the larger stacks. Oh yes, Mike does have has 2 of the larger stacks to his left. His stack, I think, would be around 30 blinds at the moment.
I'm not sure. He did lose that hand to Matt with the 9-6.
Yes, he did. Matt collected that pot. They checked on the river.
I'm saying Mike has a... Are we talking about Mike?
We were talking about Mike.
Yeah, we're saying Mike has... I don't think he has 30 big blinds anymore because he lost that hand.
Oh, you are right. Yeah. No, my mistake. I only remembered him winning hands.
Just saying the stacks to his left aren't going to be aren't reshove stacks or anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, especially on his stack size, that's why I would think maybe a little bit of a smaller raise. It would work just as effectively and save him some chips on his stack right now.
Yeah, when you get down to 30 or 40, I don't think that's what he's dealing with here.
Definitely not.
I know Jeremy likes to 3-bet. He 3-bet everyone whenever he's at my table. He was sort of the type of guy that's going to 3-bet or fold most of the hands, it seemed. At least that was my experience. Right, that's
if you're not going to be...
Or maybe he was going to go with it. Maybe he had a...
Yeah, if you're not going to be follower.
If you know you're going to get it all in with every hand you plan on, or most hands you plan on opening, and your opponents don't know that, you probably are better off making a big raise, or bigger raise, but because they don't know, we don't know that that's all he's opening.
Well, Matt Hagen opens this button to 225 with an 8-9 offsuit.
Say you have 20 big blinds, and your opponents may not shove for 20 big blinds over the top of you, but they will shove if you make it 2.5 blinds, and you're going to call every time with your entire opening range because that's what you decided to do. It's probably not so bad to make it big because you don't care if they shove. You want them to shove, so you want to do everything you can do and do.
That's going to be a good spot for him to pick up chips.
Yeah, I honestly think he could be raising close to 100% on that button.
I would raise 100%.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be thrilled about the bottom 10%, but I would still do it.
I don't think I think the cards are just irrelevant because we know the guy in the big blind is probably going to call quite frequently and then not play super defensively post flop. So it's just you get your opponent to put in chips and you almost get to make free chips right there a lot of the times.
It's so weird that we used to think about poker in terms of these absolute hand ranges. You got to have this quality starting hand in order to enter the pot. Now we're like, I have the button and the other guy isn't a sicko. Let's play 100%.
Position and stack sizes are going to determine so much of that.
Well, here we do see some of the inexperience of Mike on display. James has opened the button with ace-9, and he made the call out of the small blind with ace-8 offsuit. Something of an awkward stack size. And I believe Andy came along as well, leading to a 10-10-5 two-spade flop.
So do you guys fire this if you're sitting in Matt's seat?
James's seat?
James's seat, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do it. I think that Mike's probably going to fold too much, and Andy can have all kinds of ridiculous things.
Yeah, I agree.
And I like his bet size, too. He only needs to bet like a third, 40% pot.
Now, do you think Andy should check raise this flop aggressively?
Depends if James is the kind of guy to believe him. You're not representing very much on 10-10. Yeah, that is right.
And they're also the two big stacks, so I'm sure that, what was it, Anderson? You know, he may not want to be getting into, big pots right now with some of the short stacks still remaining at the table. No one's yet to bust.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty good spot to go after it if I'm sitting in Andy's seat.
And with playing with Wang, where he's going to, if he does pull out a check raise there, he's probably going to be going at it hard on the turn and continue to apply pressure. So you're going to be playing a really big pot if you decide to go on with ace high there.
Yeah,
in any fashion.
The check raise is effectively saying, okay, we're going to put a lot of money in this pot.
Right.
And if you don't have a great hand, you may just get out of the way.
Here's a question for you. Considering what you guys just discussed, how does your read of that situation change knowing about the hand last night where James doubled up against Andy, where James opened and Andy made a large 3-bet shove with 6-3, and then James is called with aces? Do you think that should mean that James should call down more often because he knows Andy's capable of getting a little out there and crazy, or he should call down less because he knows that Andy's capable of risking a whole bunch of chips?
So, of course he's going to be making a move a lot of the time, but you don't really have a hand that can stand up to it.
Right, and for me personally, I wouldn't really want to be getting into situations where I'm putting a ton of my chips in without knowing that, feeling more of a sure thing, personally, especially at a final table, playing for so much money, there are still, what did we say, that 2 or 3 of these players is their first WPT event ever?
Correct, but in some cases that was a result of just, being
players.
online, guys.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that really matters that he's been out there, because we also know that he's been kind of tight. He's capable of anything, it seems. And
who, Andy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if he's capable of anything, and he may apply pressure, he may not, it's tough to say. And whenever you don't really know how your opponent's going to proceed, you should probably get out of the way with a lot of marginal type hands, like ace high there. Even though it's probably, the best hand a lot of the time, it doesn't really matter, because you don't want to put your stack in.
Yeah, you can definitely wait for much better spots.
Yeah, Mike here. Going to open it up with the 2.5x and get 3-bet by Andy on the button, who it looks like has made it around 460,000, I believe. When I played with Andy, and he was on my direct left, he used some very small re-raises. Like, I remember a hand where I opened to like 900 and he 3-bet me to like, 1600 or something in position. And I was like, okay, I'll go to a flop, But he does stuff like this and then attempts to apply pressure in later streets post-flop. So I'll be curious to see what he is doing this with here. And I actually do like his sizing, considering how short Mike is. But I think that he could have something very good or something very bad here.
Yeah, he's about to get 4-bet. Jeremy's going to go after it.
I like the small 3-bets though, because it just gives Wang even more control. Not that he would need it, but it does offer him even more control in a situation. Now he's going to have control post flop.
I'm not sure I like it given the stack sizes, because Mike's going to call every time, right?
We all
agree he's going to call every time.
He's going to close to every time.
So what he's doing is he's risking another 200K so he's getting like 3 or 4 to 1 immediate pot odds, and then he can check shove every time he hits.
You're getting a player who is an inferior player to put chips in voluntarily, who's going to probably let go on flops most of the time.
Well, 2/3 of the time, but it's okay because that's okay if you're getting 3 or 4 to 1 pre-flop, because whenever you hit, you can check shove every time.
Well, this is interesting. Okay, I thought Salzburg was considering the cold 5-bet, but as we see, Jeremy is making a very nice play here. A cold 4-bet with Jack-10 suited against a player he knows is capable of 3-betting light frequently, and against another stack who's so short that if you were to jam, he would probably just have to call here, and he would be getting it in with a hand that you never mind that much.
Right. I think if Mike knows to check shove anything like a gut shot or better post flop, I don't really like the small re-raises, given the stack size.
You think Mike's going to check shove a gut shot?
And that's what I'm saying.
If he would do that.
Do you think check shove is even in his arsenal with most?
With pairs, I think he would, if he made a pair.
I'm kind of on Amanda's side here, whereas I think that Mike is more likely to just not get it in wide enough post-flop and to not take an aggressive line like any of the three of us would, where we know this guy Andy's applying some pressure, let's go to a flop. Okay, I caught a little bit of equity, I've got to pound him. I feel like Mike's more like, oh, I caught a little bit of equity, it's not enough, I'll let it go.
Right.
Andy lays it down.
He's really short, though.
He is really short. And if he had something that was speculative that he could still go to a flop with, he really kind of put him to a stack size decision.
And it's interesting because Jeremy just had to go through the whole thought process that we just did, which is Wang doing it to that stock size light, and then he obviously he made the right read there. The Jack 10 suited, love it. Good, Jeremy.
And he, thus far, can't seem to get anything right. I'm not even saying he's playing bad, just everything's going wrong. He's losing all the pots that he does play. People are picking up on the spots that he's picking.
Yeah, but he hasn't really lost any chips. He probably still has 9 million chips.
No, well, think about it. He fired off 3 barrels against Matt Haugen. He just lost a 3-bet there.
All right, you're right. Maybe he's down to
Has he taken
8.
a pot yet?
He's probably down around like 6-ish, I would guess. Like he started the day around 9.5.
We need to get some updated stats on the screen.
Okay, I'm going to guess that Andy is in the region of around like upper 6s, maybe 7. And it looks like he's about to play another hand here. Andy has opened the min to 200,000, and Jeremy this time has just called in position with pocket 9s. No, wait, it might be the small blind. Where am I talking? Where's the button? I can't see it.
I'm not sure Jeremy's acted yet.
He would be the button. Jeremy would be the button.
Correct.
Because he was the small blind last time, and Matt Salzberg was in the big blind considering jamming. And now Matt Haugen is in the big blind, making a squeeze 3-bet here. To looks like around 6-ish and a quarter, maybe 7 and a quarter.
And what was Anderson's stack at the beginning right here in this hand? He's not in the big blind.
Okay. This is Andy opening the hand.
Okay.
7 and a quarter with a pair of queens. And this could get interesting.
This is a tough spot with the 9s. I mean, you call pre-flop because you don't really want to get 3-bet, or you don't want to get 4-bet.
Yeah.
And now you do get cold 4-bet, or you get 3-bet squeeze, and it's a dicey spot.
Or I'm sorry, what was Haugen's stack at the beginning of this hand?
Probably about 5 million.
Yeah, in the region of 5.
Okay.
And I'm guessing Jeremy is just going to call here. You guys think so as well?
I think he's probably going to call.
Yeah.
Folding would be a little bit tight because you're getting okay implied odds.
Well,
you're in position. And
I was curious about the flat as well with Salzberg behind. If Jeremy was flatting to take an all-in from Salzberg, if he were to shove there.
I think he would pretty comfortably call.
Well, I think Matt has about 35 big blinds now.
Oh,
Matt Salzberg
right, so he's probably not going to be shoving
shoving
quite that many, yeah.
Got to get those updated numbers.
Yeah, that's right.
There's been a lot of action so far at this table.
Quite a lot of action thus far.
Normally the chips don't get so mixed up quite this quickly, but they certainly have today.
Yeah, Jeremy giving Matt something of a stare down here before he wants to choose what to do here.
Well, I was curious with the flat if he was trying to induce action behind him with Salzberg, as I thought might have been on a shorter stack. In fact, is not. But when he is going to 3-bet with the Jack 10 and then flat, it was Andy, correct?
Yeah, he flatted Andy.
Then it would seem kind of like he's assuming he has the best. I would think that he's thinking he has the best hand, and he's maybe trying to induce action from the players behind. So I don't think that he'd be too fearful to proceed in this spot.
It would be nice to know how aggressively Matt has been playing throughout the whole tournament, or at least the final table. If he's never squeezed, then I would be pretty unhappy right now. But if he's 3-betting consistently, then 9s kind of look like the nuts here.
Correct.
Yeah, I wonder what Druckmann knows of him.
Looks like he's making a nicely sized bet here.
I'm going to guess around the region of 7 or 8. Looks like 7.
800,000.
Maybe even 6.
Not that 800,000.
And I don't know how it is 8.
I'll say I think 6 would be a little bit small, but I think 8's
like
pretty
8.
good.
I feel like Jeremy's going to call once, right? He's got to call once on 8-7-4. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, I would call and not be very happy.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't plan on folding very many turns either, but it's going to not be
it'll kind of depend on your player and what card turns.
I mean, do you think he's coming from a place of fear right now, or do you think he's happy about his hand? I mean, Is he flatting pre to set mine and then give up on this 8-7-4?
I think he's still in evaluation mode, which is basically I have a pretty good hand, but my opponent is not crazy, and he knows I have something of quality. But I think he's more concerned than he is happy about the strength of his hand.
Yeah, I would definitely not be happy with my hand here, but it's just too good to fold at this point.
I'm just curious to see where he's coming from with this.
I mean, I would be shocked if he raises or anything like that. Like raises and gets in with it, I'd be flabbergasted.
My head would explode.
But, I mean, you would see that play from a lot of amateur players, I think.
Sure.
You know, they're like, oh my god, I got an overpair, I'm all in. But this is
starting to look...
look like exactly what that I said.
Yeah, I mean, he's counting down all these yellows.
It's looking like what I was saying, which is that I think he's coming from a place of...
You think he's like, yeah, I got 9s, I got an overpair.
I think he's coming from a place of where he flatted pre to induce action behind. If he's going to raise here, then I would have to say I'm going to go with my original read on this guy, that he's pretty happy.
I mean, it looks like a raise to me. I think it's going to be about a min-raise or a little over.
Looks like he's going to level himself here.
So with queens, what do you do now?
I don't fold.
Well, no, I'm not folding.
Yeah.
Queens are the nuts here.
Yeah.
Whenever you lose to only sets, that's okay. You know, you can be happy with your hand, but he can't really think a guy's raising here with 9s to go with it, I wouldn't think, but...
I probably call and then check, get it in on most turns.
I like that.
I would call and check, probably check, call to seduce the whole way.
Well, think about it. On the turn, the guy's going to bet like a couple million and almost be all in? 1.5 million?
If he's all in, then sure.
It's going to be close enough.
All in enough, yeah.
Yeah, otherwise I think your route is fine.
You always want to make sure you keep the bluffs in their range.
Yeah.
Whenever you have an overpair like queens here, because you don't beat any value hands at this point unless they're overvaluing 9s.
Now, it did look like he went to go pick up those chips pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Not much hesitation there from Hagen.
I probably would have tried to look a little bit more sad calling to try to induce more bluffs.
That's an interesting card. I don't think that will change Matt's plan.
Well, it's an awful card for Matt because now he loses to 6s and 5s.
Yeah. I still don't think it changes his plan.
But do you think Jeremy realizes he's bluffing at this point if he bets again? Because, I mean...
Yeah, to call that raise, he's got to have...
He has an overpair.
He's got to have an overpair.
Jeremy is going to be suspicious of this at this point.
He either has an overpair or he has like 7-6, 6-5, 5-4, some random hand he decided to bluff 3-bet that now is the best hand.
If I'm Jeremy, I'm trying to get the showdown and get my straight, but I don't really want to put any more chips in this pot.
But at this point, your hand's not good, so...
Yeah. Unless you think he's going to fold, but I don't think he's going to... I don't feel that strong that my opponent's going to fold if I'm in Jeremy's seat.
So that went check then?
So I would ask myself if my opponent's ever folding aces here, if I pile it in. And if you think he will, then you have to bluff the 9s.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure he will.
I don't feel confident enough that he will that I would go for it.
Anytime you're in Jeremy's spot and you raise, if the guy calls, you're like, oh man, I'm totally screwed now.
Right.
It's probably not a good raise because that's exactly what's happened here. Because 9s are obviously no good when the guy calls your flop bet. And he's sitting there with a medium strength hand that he doesn't really want to bluff, but it's, still has some value, you would think. So do you bluff the king?
That's a good question.
Because if he's sitting there with 9s, 10s, jacks, or queens, but the king's not a scare card, and I think that should be obvious. The king's not really a scare card.
Yeah, because ace-king probably just goes to war pre-flop.
It's not calling the flop bet.
Yeah.
Right, nothing gets past that flop that has a king in the hand.
Right, unless it's kings.
Unless it's kings, right.
So, I think all good players realize this king is effectively a blank. But seeing the way Jeremy played this hand on the flop makes me think maybe he looks at this king as a scare card.
I would think after the turn that Druckmann should be a little worried, a little concerned here.
So queens, you just check call, no problem?
I'm not going to pretend like it's real easy.
I mean, if it goes check on the turn, I'd be so happy with my hand.
With the queens, yeah.
Yeah, I am going to call, but I don't think I'm going to be like slamming them over.
Yeah, I'm check calling, especially even just by the way this kid, by the way that Jeremy looks. He looks like one of those kids that I just want to snap off.
I also think that his having taken this long on the river and then firing the bet out looks more bluffy than strong. I mean, I might know this because he's bluffing, but...
No, I think he's generally methodical in all of his plays.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah, whenever I play with him, he took 20 seconds for 3-betting every time.
Okay.
Now he's really... I mean, this is weird that he's counted out. Now he's still sitting. That's kind of weird. Normally he was a bit more stoic.
I wonder if his opponent is just thinking, put that bet in so I can snap it off. Just waiting for that snap off.
I think that Matt's going to take a while if he faces a bet.
Really?
I think that as good as Matt is, that it's not going to be something snap or easy like...
Anytime someone does something ridiculous like this, where they take forever, count out chips, play around a bit, you always have to be somewhat concerned that they have some random set.
Yeah.
So you don't want them to take some abnormal line, unless you're confident the abnormal line is always a bluff. That's a pretty big bet.
It is a pretty big bet.
Well, it took a little bit of it back.
Yeah.
Let's save a little bit for later.
Okay.
Just in case.
I think it's... What is that bet exactly?
1.7. Actually, it's not even that big. It's probably like 1.8 million or something.
I kind of like the pulling some back. It makes it look like the... Can I get a little more value out of you? Can I... If I take a little less, will you call?
One time I saw a guy count out his chips to make a bet, and then he put in the other part that he didn't count. And it was like the most amazing thing I've ever saw.
That's awesome.
He counted out like $1 million and then put in the other 2. And kept $1 million back. I've been trying to find a spot to use that play, but I've yet to find a spot to do it. So, queens. What do we do with queens here? I mean, I guess we all...
It's easy when we get to look at the cards.
You only lose to sets, and of course he would value bet a set on this river.
Yeah.
And
he did call. So Jeremy turns his hand over. Matt's going to turn his over and feel very good about it.
So does Jeremy think he was bluffing?
I think Jeremy knows he was bluffing.
Does he know he was bluffing on the...
Take the whole fear factor and...
Well, I don't think it's... Like say he has a set and the turn comes. Your opponent's probably not going to call again with... Unless he has a good overpair anyways.
Right.
So you want to make your hand look as weak as possible so you can get one more sizable bet. Exactly like he just would have gotten it with a set.
Right.
But maybe he wouldn't have played it that way, you're right. I mean, I think I'm checking that turn a lot if I have a set. Just to hope to get one more bet in. Because if you go bet, you're not going to get 2 streets of value.
I think with certain images you can. Like if you're crazy enough, I mean, and your opponents know that you're crazy enough, then you could probably go ahead and bet all 3 streets there. But
yeah, I think depending on your image leading up to the hand, there's definitely spots where you can go 3 streets with the set there.
There's also a little bit of value in just being a little bit careful, though, given that there are a few short stacks.
Yeah.
And a huge final table for this much money.
I mean, it's really tough for your opponent to have you beat there if you have a set, but...
I do agree with you that
will.
you're like rarely getting 3 streets, so I like to check on the fact that it probably increases the likelihood you get 2.
Right. And you're not going to go broke in the hand,
yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's worth mentioning because we have 2 guys with relatively short stacks, and you really don't want to go broke before them. But it's really it is hard for your opponent to have a set beat. So you do have to look at this. Whenever you're thinking about being the chip leader or whatever, if one guy has 9 and one guy has 8 and everybody else has 2,
you're the chip leader.
The guy with 9 and 8 are the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter who's the chip leader. It doesn't really matter who's the short stack if everybody has 19 big blinds and 18 big blinds and 22 big blinds. All those guys are effectively the same. If you're playing at a table where everyone's not going to blind out, and these guys aren't going to blind out. So don't get too caught up on being the chip leader or having an average stack or anything like that.
That's actually something I never look at, ever. And I
what,
always
chip counts?
Well, average stack. I've never used that average stack piece of information as part of any...
I mean, it's not actually a real piece of information.
Right.
It's totally irrelevant.
People always ask, and I'm just so curious about why that matters.
It does become relevant at the final table to some extent.
Yeah.
Because if everybody has 60 big blinds and you have 10, you kind of got to get to work.
Yeah, I'm talking more so like, day 3 of the tournament. Like,
yeah.
What's average stack? Like, what does it matter?
It's totally irrelevant. Yeah. So don't worry about average stack. If you just totally ignored that for the rest of your life, you'd be much better off.
And I'm going to go ahead and agree with that. That's been my thoughts for a while. All right, Salzburg, let's go.
Yep. Decides the 3-bet Jeremy here with an ace-king, and Jeremy quickly folds.
Yeah, that's kind of
interested in 3-betting Jeremy right now, considering he just lost a huge pot, and he's back around a shoving stack for like 4-bet shove, 30, 40-ish blinds area, I think. 30-ish.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, going back to the showing thing, like if Salzburg is going to be playing this, I wouldn't mind him trying to put in a light 3-bet somewhere and showing, something kind of wild. Now, of course, this table is filled with, some pretty experienced players who may know better than that and understand that he's just trying to show the weak hands. for a little bit of an image post. But, you know, if they weren't quite as experienced, then I could think that showing, you know,
right now. I think Andy is actually, well, I think Mike has the worst seat in the house, but Andy has a pretty bad seat as well. And sometimes you're at a table where you're handcuffed, you can't do anything.
I think Matt Haugen just skipped a hand. Did I see that right? Did he skip a hand?
it's pretty boss if he did.
2 hands, I think.
2 hands.
Gotta go to the bathroom or something. What are you gonna do?
Can't
This
help
is
it.
a. Does he know this is a final table? What? Who misses hands at a final table? I've never seen that before.
Well, he's doubled
John
up,
Jawanda.
so he doesn't care.
Jawanda is so rich, it doesn't matter. Come on.
That's why I said it's a pretty boss move to
It's
just
a pretty
leave in
yeah.
the middle.
Okay, so we have confirmation that Matt Haugen is apparently really rich.
He's the biggest winner on Full Tilt
Biggest-
3 years ago. But he probably hasn't collected his money, so
Yeah.
he's a bit out of luck, probably.
James has opened King 9 here to 210,000.
It's like, this is a great spot. If I was in Matt Salzberg's seat, I would have opened.
Anything?
A lot of hands.
A lot of hands.
Not anything, but, you know, not garbage.
Jeremy shoves. There you have it. He only has 22 blinds
Wow.
right now.
Yeah, these stacks have shifted quite a bit
So he started with 6 million, and now he's down to 2.
to 2.
Yeah.
So, tough day for him so far.
Well, that pot with the 9s there was a pretty big loss for Druckmann.
It was. Man, all
Middle cards got there, so that would have been a line that would have won the pot.
sick irony.
Yeah, if he doesn't raise the flop, he probably wins.
Yep.
Or he doesn't lose a big pot.
Yeah,
One of
correct.
the two.
He was clearly willing to bluff, so I think going,
Right.
call, bet works better as a bluff than raise, check, bet.
If he did bet the turn there, it has like the double advantage of getting your opponent off random overcards that have equity against you, and also if they do have an overpair that has you beat, they're going to call, and if they do call, they're going to check fold a lot of rivers. So it's a cool spot that he messed up by raising.
I was very confused by that raise too. I was like, it was essentially a merge raise, wasn't it?
You don't want them.
I'm not saying merges are good.
No,
I'm just saying it was a merge.
They're okay sometimes, but
Sometimes.
you don't want to do it with like the exact part of your range that they're only going to continue with better with.
Yes.
And that's what, like, if he had jacks there, maybe it'd be okay. If he had queens there, maybe it'd be okay. But 9s is not the hand you want to do it with.
No.
Like 9s, 9-8s. That's just like the worst part to
Ace
do it
8,
with.
stuff
Right.
like that. It looks like he's going to take the blinds down here against Salzburg. Did not get the super knit impression.
No,
Nah.
he's not. But he knows how to play these stack sizes. He understands, that this is a final table with some experienced players. So I'm sure he'll be picking his spots carefully.
I don't know. If they put me in the big blind and they have a kid raising in the small blind with 20 big blinds, I don't care. I'm going all in.
Dude.
I mean, what more do you want? The guy's going to give you a free 2 big blinds every moment.
What are you, 22? I'm all in.
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
All right.
Wow, so here we do see Mike shoving, which is it's good to see. I'm glad that he's shoving instead of calling.
Do you think that James is going to call here? It's only a 15 blind shove, but he's got a hand that's probably dominated a lot by the shoving range of somebody like Mike, but also, when it's 15 blinds and you got the king and the queen, you're kind of like, come on.
It's an easy call. I mean, it's unfortunate when they have ace king or ace queen, but
Right.
whatever, you have king queen. And they're going to have...
I call as well, but I'm always not happy in these spots.
When it's 15 big blinds, you don't have to be right. You don't have to have that much equity
Yes.
to break even.
And I think that James will call here as well, but
Yeah, and especially since James has, probably it's still around the same 7 or 8 million stack. It's
Yeah.
not like it's going to demolish him or anything. You do have to be a bit concerned that Mike is only shoving premium hands because he has been calling a bit.
correct.
But, what is a premium hand to him? So, like, is he shoving all pairs? Is he shoving decent aces? Is he shoving king 10? If he's shoving stuff like king 10, then it's like a huge error.
I don't think he's shoving king 10. Not under the gun and under the gun 1, even if it's 6-handed.
I'm trying to think if there is a range where you should fold king queen here. I don't really think there is, unless it's just like the super nittiest range.
Right. You could probably find a player that this is a fold against, but Mike's not one of them.
You have to think he's probably shoving like only 9s or better and
Ace queen plus
like
or something.
ace jack or better.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to see here though how much Anderson actually has in his stack.
it looks like about 6 million.
Does it?
Well, there's the front triangle of
That's like
pinks.
3 million,
1,
right?
2, 3. Then that stack on top is about
Wow.
4, maybe 5-ish.
5, yeah.
James ends up.
We could talk about that.
All right.
But king queen's too good because you beat king jack and You have equity against lots of stuff.
I don't know if Mike is shoving King Jack there.
Well, maybe not. But I mean, we can't define his range definitively. I mean, you can look at this and like, let's say we don't know which range he's shoving. Maybe he has a kind of loose range, maybe he has a kind of tight range.
We kind of need Poker Stove here to know absolutely how much equity he gives up by folding.
Well, but even then, you can't even necessarily use that because, well, you can plug in different ranges. Like say 50% of the time he has this range and he has 30% equity. Yeah,
you can get rough numbers with a stove.
Right. So you just have to use 2 different Poker Stove calculations and then put them together. But I promise that's going to be an easy call versus any reasonable range.
Yeah.
And it's just not close. Because, you know, when he has jacks, you should still call. Like, if he turns over his jacks, you're supposed to call there.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
So the only time you're supposed to fold is whenever he has just the very most premium hands. And you have a king and a queen, so...
If he does call and loses the hand, however, he's left with, what, like 30 big blinds? Whereas if he folds pre, and I know you're not going to like this, John, but he has, you know, a lot more of a stack to work with versus these opponents at this table. You know, so do you take that small, what I would consider more on the side of smaller edges to be calling off and just kind of be dealing with a face-up situation and leave it to the fate of the deck, than to have those chips to be malleable throughout the rest of this tournament at a table with tough opponents?
Who do you think he's going to be working with his stack? Who do you think he's going to be abusing with his stack currently?
Well, there's not a ton of soft spots at the table, so it begs the question of should you take the small edge or not, you know?
That is exactly it. If the table was super soft and everybody's just giving it away, I'd say yeah, for sure. But
guys, sorry to interrupt, but we have a huge hand developing here. Andy opened the hijack to 200,000 with a Jack-8 offsuit, and then Matt Salzberg on the button with the 650,000 with a still unknown hand. And then Matt Haugen out of the small blind has gone to 1.25 million with a pair of kings. My guess is that Salzberg has a fairly real hand here, but you picked out earlier, John, that this would be a nice spot to be attacking Andy, and that it's possible that somebody like Salzberg is doing this light, but I also feel as though on his stack size, he's mostly 3-betting good hands here.
I would assume they're mostly for value.
Yeah.
I bet he has a bluff like 20% of the time or something.
He definitely has a bluff range here on this stack.
Yeah.
But I think that he's cognizant of the fact that his image is probably tight, and he's probably not getting cold 4-bet all too light, especially given his image.
He's probably thinking, this kid, Matt, what is going on with him? He's played every hand so far. I mean, he's had the nuts every hand, but it's got to be nice to get to a WPT final table and make the nuts every hand.
And have people keep putting chips in.
Yeah, really. Dream.
It's a great spot to 4-bet. This is not a good spot to call in Matt's seat.
No, he's too short for anything like that.
Is Action still on Wang here?
Action is on Matt Salzberg right now. And he has been statue for some time.
Wang folded.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because it says to cause.
Statue on statue violence.
I'm saying this is a good spot for Hagen to 3-bet, or to 4-bet.
Yes, I do like it, even though, you know, this time it just so happens he has kings.
You should very rarely call the 3-bets. It's not a good play. But in this tournament, I actually saw a lot of cold calling of 3-bets. It was unbelievable. And then they check fold post flop every time.
That's the great part of one of the many great parts of the Borgata. But stuff like that is why we all keep coming back.
I think Matt Salzberg has a hand and he's going to go broke.
I get the same indication. I get the same impression. He doesn't have that many chips to start this hand, so...
He made a 650 and he has 2.5. He has about 3 behind.
I believe you're right.
So he can still fold if
he can still fold.
You always have to worry about these cold 4-bets. I mean, even though Hagen is a kid and it's probably aggressive, people just don't do it as a bluff that often.
The sizing, though, can look kind of lovely. It's like the perfect size where it's just enough to make the raise over Salzberg and just enough to still look like a level on Salzberg's stack where it looks as though Hagen may still be able to fold to a 3 million-ish shove.
So what should What should Salzberg shove here? It's a tongue twister.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. It would depend if you think that Hagen is, obviously making the play, and I think that Salzberg again needs to consider that he's, what his image is, and would Hagen really be cold 4-betting versus someone who he thinks is pretty tight, who's now a tight, what we see as a tight player has now 3-bet.
Well, I think he has to go like queens are better and ace king. That's like obvious, I think.
Certainly.
For Hagen.
So does he go with jacks for value?
I cram jacks here.
Okay, what about 10s? I think jacks are like close, and I would be pretty unhappy with 10s.
10s are... That's what I was thinking before. I was like, I know what I do with jacks. I know what I do with 9s. What do I do with 10s?
Okay, so do you ever bluff here? Say you have king 5 suited. Do you ever shove it?
No, because I just don't quite have enough back to make me think I'm getting a lot of folds. Like, I know it's possible, but I think I'm just a little too shallow to get a lot of folds.
And I totally agree. So, this is a pretty cool spot to cold 4-bet. So
yes, it is.
Everyone at home, if you're playing against players who can make a fold with something like 9s here, or ace-queen here, this is a great spot to cold 4-bet.
Yeah, when you find that little ace rag in the small blind, and you're just like, let's make it 4 in a spot I never get flatted.
But it has to be versus players who are at least somewhat thinking, but not going to have that over-the-edge insane factor. I find like it's the middle of the way kind of.
I think that's why Salzburg's perfect.
Are perfect, exactly.
Yeah.
That would make Salzburg kind of a good target for such a line.
Salzburg's folding. He's putting his chips away. Well, I hope he folds here. I root for him.
Me too.
I like Matt too.
You're my buddy.
Haugen's just got to be thinking, I am the man. I get nothing wrong at the spot of the table. Every hand I play, the person just seems to hate their life. Like,
he's like, I play so good.
So now I have kings. I've been rewarded for the quality of my play.
What does Matt Salzburg do here with aces?
Just cram and be like, awesome.
So should he ever call?
No.
No,
not against somebody good like Matt who knows that there's... I mean, I guess it's conceivable that he could have something like a 10-9 suited, but really I just think you cram and you anticipate getting called almost always. Are you thinking flat it because Haugen has to fire and then it's like, hey, we jam and he's not invested for too much more beyond that? Or what do you think? I just cram when I have aces.
I'm just trying to think outside the box. I'm trying to figure out if there are possibly better lines. Oh, he's talking. He's done with the hand.
Yeah, there it is. I want to know what that hand is. Oh. I don't think you guys think either that was a fake tank.
No, that was a real
That was a real tank.
He had like jacks or something.
Somewhere in that vicinity. I'm going to put a guess on ace-queen.
Okay.
That's my guess.
I think ace-queen's an easier fold than what was just made out right there. It's really important to think about stuff at the table, but I think it's also really important to have like a general plan in your head ahead of time so that you don't have to think about stuff.
Yeah.
You have to have like a level of competence where you can just sort of know what to do for the most part. Like general opening ranges in a 10-handed poker table. You don't have to think, okay, I got ace-jack under the gun and the table's tough. What do I do with this? You don't need to sit there for 5 minutes thinking about this type of thing. You should know. And if that comes from playing a lot and getting a lot of experience and thinking about the game away from the table.
Well, Matt has opened this button to 225, and I believe James is call. I think that's a call. No, it's a very small raise to 475. I'm a little confused by these tiny re-raises out of position, especially with very deep stacks.
I was about to say the same thing. This is a weird spot to 3-bet small, especially with ace-2 suited, because you're going to get called a lot of the time.
I don't really mind the 3-bet. I think I would just make it like 6 and something.
Yeah, I always like to have fold equity pre-flop, because this is one other spot where your opponent can give you the hand, whereas whenever you make it small, they're probably not going to give you the hand. Right here, though, if I have ace-2 offsuit, you probably should fold to these small 3-bets.
Yeah, I probably just fold it, or I just 4-bet him.
These are the worst hands to take a flop with, because if you do flop an ace, you're going to be in bad shape. If you flop a 2, you can't be happy. So I'm really not a fan of calling these, even the tiny 3-bets. These are, like, ace-x and king-x are the one hand in your opening range you can get away from.
It's funny, I actually think Matt's going to win this hand now, because he gets a 10-4-3 rainbow flop, and James is going to bet once, Matt's never going to fold, and then he's probably just going to have to check fold the turn, isn't he?
He's probably going to, he's going to float the flop for sure.
Yeah, oh man, he can't fold this flop.
Unless he bets huge, which he didn't.
Which you never should on this texture.
No, but if he bet like $1 million, he would probably win the hand.
Right.
That's about the only way he's going to win this.
I mean, the likelihood of him betting $1 million on this flop is equal to like an asteroid crashing through the roof and just destroying the poker table, and like that's how he wins the hand. He's just never betting $1 million here. 425 call.
Don't play with numbers,
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
Crazy stuff happens in Atlantic City.
Now, the turn is a king, and that might be one of the few cards that allows James to win this hand, because he may follow through on that.
I'm not sure James is a barreler.
Yep, there you have it.
There you go.
Let's check.
Good read, John.
He's the type of guy who's going to give it one shot, and if it doesn't work, okay, I lose.
Do you guys like a bet on that turn?
From either player, yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you're in James' spot,
Yeah,
you
fire
play the
out,
hand
man.
very similar. Do you fire on this turn?
If I bet the turn, I probably bet the river then too, though. I don't expect. I think that a lot of times players are going to bet that turn who are thinking players. So
I just think it's so hard for my opponent to have a good call 3 streets hand that I kind of want to just go for it. Yeah, I know.
If you're going to bet the turn, then you'd have to bet the river and put a pretty healthy bet out, just so they're not tempted to call with any hands that they may have called.
It's always important to not spaz your stack off, though.
Especially in these spots, right?
It doesn't feel like a spaz to me, though. I think I'm going to get away with it.
I know it doesn't feel like a spaz. When your opponent has Jack 10 and he calls, then... Wow, what's happening here? Is he going for the raise?
No way. Is he going to check raise this turn?
Well, I hope he doesn't call. Oh, he's doing it. Sick play.
Wow.
I don't hate it. It seems fun. But see, is he ever doing this with ace-king, though?
That's just it. I'm like, what check raises here? Like...
This is kind of like that hand where Jeremy had the 9s, where if you have ace-king, you don't really want to check raise.
Correct.
But that's how some people play their hand, despite all that. Did he... What happened? Is he check min raising?
Ballpark? I think he's probably making it like...
300, right? Or, I'm sorry.
No, it does look like around check min raise.
No, I think he didn't put in enough. Yeah, see,
there it is.
He put in too
stacks.
little. He put in 1.6, and he had to put in 1.7.
1.7.
This hand is great.
I mean, I'm pretty shocked that he did this, but it's obviously an absurd line. It looks a lot like a king or set.
You actually think it looks like a king? I don't think it looks like a king at all.
It looks like a king from a weak player.
But he's not a weak player, so it doesn't seem congruent at all.
If I did not look up this guy, I would assume he's a weak player.
But did
just
Matt really not even just go on handed mob before his final table?
I played with him the other day, and I made the exact same deduction.
What?
That this Anderson fellow, I played with him, and I was like, oh, this guy's just like some college kid who's coming to play. I did not give him credit for being.
He doesn't look online. He doesn't look like a guy who plays a ton of poker. He looks like a golf player who's just like here to hang out a little bit, which I think is really good.
It's good for the married guys, as you were saying, Salzburg, guys who come from the business world, guys with a wedding ring or baby pictures. We know.
Yeah, the wedding ring.
We know.
Wedding ring's a good sign. Oh, and it looks like he has gotten away. Or like 8. Like, what does he have that's not one of those? Or maybe like 10s.
Did you expect him to take that line with a draw, though?
What?
Did you expect him to take that line
I expect it more so than I expect a good hand to turn up. Like, it's just so hard for him to have a good hand, and it's such an improbable line coming from ace-king that if I have jack 10, I probably talk myself into calling with the intention to call most rivers except maybe, like, clubs, and particularly, like, the 9 of clubs, the ace of clubs I'm always folding. Different from jack 10.
You beat some kings.
But king-jack never check raises, never been check raises.
And your hand is not gonna get as worse on some rivers. Like, say a queen comes, that's fine. Whereas if you have jack 10 and a queen comes, it's
and I'll admit that having the king decreases the likelihood that he has something strong, maybe a king 10 or, kings or ace king. But really, I see them as very comparable hands. And so, like, if you're like, I'm calling down with a king, but I guess I fold a 10, like, I don't know. It seems pretty comparable.
They're similar, but not.
Okay.
For the reasons you just said, I mean, if you have a king, it's much harder for him to have a king, and you have top pair. you beat these random spazzes.
Top pair.
You beat the random spazzes with bottom pair and middle pair and all that stuff. So, it's Jeremy.
Really? Snap. James clearly does not like raise calling shoves.
No, he doesn't like calling shoves. You're right. We've seen him fold the king-queen and king-jack suited now. So maybe he doesn't view those hands as strong, but those hands have equity. Whenever you need to win 40% of the time or something, they're going to.
Or maybe he'd rather just, as I was mentioning before, maybe just take a lot more flops and
check min-raise people on the turn.
Open people's faces up.
I said you're probably not going to have too many great spots to do that kind of stuff, but sure enough, he did it. So
yeah, if he can find those spots, then
maybe James is the man, and I just don't know it.
Oh, this guy Hogan seems like he has another good hand, huh?
Yeah, he gets the aces now.
All right, Hogan.
That's a good hand.
I see what you're doing, Hogan.
And now over to Matt Salzberger, the big blind. Hogan hoping Matt wakes up. No, he doesn't. So just the
rules, sir. What?
I don't have any rules. That's the secret. I have no rules.
Your vacuum general station.
Yeah, Well, action's going to be on James here. Now over to Mike.
I'm kind of rooting to see James get heads up now. I'm interested to see some ridiculous lines heads up.
I'd like to see a James versus Matt heads up. I think that would be interesting and a lot of deep thinking involved. Anything could happen with Andy. He could be like clear chip leader going into heads up, or he could just be 6th.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a pretty good final table. These guys all are not scared to play.
And he finally wakes up with a real hand. He's got ace-king here.
He's never supposed to have a hand. Come on.
Anytime a wild guy gets a hand, he usually gets paid off because people play back at him, and it's just so much harder for him to have a strong hand if he's opening so many hands.
It's starting to look like Matt wants to play here. Perhaps consulting somebody on the side in the rail.
He's asking the floor man, what does he have over there? Is this a good spot?
It's very rare you see someone like kind of check out in the middle of the hand and look around everywhere but their opponent.
Matt does some funny stuff in hand sometimes. He'll just like zone out, like look at the TV, watch the sports for a little bit. Like, oh, it's on me now? Okay. Yeah, I'll go all in.
We'll find out if that's what he does here.
We have some giggles.
He's still got his cards in front of him, so...
This could be bad news if he likes to play here.
He's got about 24 blinds to start this hand.
This is a spot where I've tried to not shove as much.
The 24 blind stack, especially now that you get less out of it. It used to be like people were 2.5xing and you were getting a little more.
Yeah, if they were doing 2.5x, I would still shove it. But for min raises, I think it's okay to shove, but you have to know you're not going to be able to have much of an edge post flop.
I feel like it's something I've changed about.
I shove his 5s here, though. When you've got like 23, 24 bigs out of the small blind? Big blind. Small blind. I just jam.
Yeah, I
really don't like
25 bigs?
25 bigs with 5s facing a cutoff raise versus an active opponent. I just cram the 5s, don't you?
I would shove it also. But I mean, I don't like it.
I don't like it.
We don't like it, but we do it.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to see a flop versus a player who knows we're going to miss the flop most of the time, and this player is going to apply pressure all the time, so...
Well, if you know the guy's going to apply his whole stack worth of pressure, then it's probably okay to call, because you're getting okay odds to set mine.
Wow, I really don't like anything about that hand.
Well, you can't... What are you going to check call the flop, and then what? Get called, you're done.
Yeah, I think still at 25 big blinds is maybe a bit too much.
If I call pre-flop there, I don't hate the check fold on the flop. There's just too much going on. Anytime it's like Queen 9x, Jack 8x.
Talking about an impossible hypothetical. If I call pre-flop out of the small with 24 blinds and a small pair.
If I think I'm against a guy I know who's gonna put his whole stack in post-flop, if I get a set, I'm okay with calling there. But I probably would have shoved too, you're right.
Yeah, I'm just not okay with calling there. I'm sorry. I just can't come to a compromise with you this time.
I'm on your side.
Okay.
There is no compromise.
Great, then good.
We're on the same team.
Then we're on the next hand. Andy here has opened the 240 on the hijack with the Jack 10 offsuit.
And see, now that Matt Salzberg did give away 2 big blinds, now he has a better shove stack. For next time.
One way to look at it.
No, for real. There are stacks where you want to get out of them. Like 28 big blinds, you don't want to be there in tournament poker. You'd much rather have 50 or 20 because they're easier to play.
They are easier to play, but...
I know it's crazy.
I'm pretty sure if we ran some math on it, having 28 is better than having 20. I don't want to be too firm on that, but
you guys remember the gigabet block theorem?
I do remember gigabet, and I remember some of his theorems.
This was actually a really good one.
Was
believe
it
or
like
not?
The stacks? There are certain stack sizes, and they go in certain sections. Like this stack size is this amount of playable. This stack size you do this specifically. Like, is that more or less it?
Kind of. Basically, some stacks are more valuable than others, and they're easier to play, so you want to be on stacks that are easier to play compared to stacks that are not easier to play. So, like, say Matt Salzberg has 24 big blinds, which is kind of crappy with... Actually, like, 28's crappy.
Right.
Say he has 28 big blinds. The big blinds between, like, say, 22 big blinds and 28 big blinds, those 6 big blinds, can be used to gamble a little bit more by, say, 3-betting light or calling and taking some flops. And if you lose that 6 big blinds, it's okay, because now you have a good stack. And if you happen to get lucky with those 6 big blinds and run hot... Now you're up to 50 big blinds, and you can play that stack.
How much credence do you give this theory?
A little bit.
Okay.
You know, like, that's... If I had 28 big blinds there with 5s, I'm for sure taking the flop. I'm not shoving, even though you could shove. Shoving's probably profitable. But I would probably be much more prone to call.
I don't mind a call there with 28, 30. I don't know. I'm still kind of tempted to just jam. I don't know.
some stacks are better than others. Just for pure playability. And it used to be to where when people were making it 3x pre-flop, bigger stacks were better. You know, like a 30 big blinds or less was okay, so then like a 40 big blind stack was kind of awkward.
Right.
So you wanted to not be at a 40 big blind stack, you want to be at 30 or 60.
Well, guys, this is getting interesting. Andy opened the hijack like we spoke about, and Matt called out of the small blind with ace-10 offsuit, and then the king-9-8 flop went check-back call, and the brick turn goes check-back call as well, facing a small bet, and Andy connects on the river, making a pair. So he's going to win this pot unless he gets... No, he's just going to win this pot. Once there's more check-min raising going on, he's just going to win this pot. I don't think he'll go for a bluff. I think he'll probably just check back and take his showdown value here. Be surprised if he went for it. He'd have to believe his opponent has specifically a king that he can get him off of.
You think Andy's bluffing if he bets the river?
I think you'd be value betting.
I think it's a value bet.
With his image?
I just don't think you can get a ton of value here.
You can bet. We can
if
make a small bet.
If you have a crazy image, people are not going to fold, especially...
I like a 400K bet.
But what 9 did your opponent call with out of the small blind? 9-10 suited specifically?
That is true against a good player.
Yeah.
You're right about that.
I think that, I think he has the best hand here fairly often, but I don't think that means you can really get a lot of value out of it.
You always have to think about every street in the hand, and if the guy can't have a 9 in his range pre-flop, or an 8 really, then...
What are we betting against?
What are we betting against? You're right. It's actually... Good analysis. One time from you.
Thank you. It's not all nonsense.
But yeah, I do agree. Andy has the best hand here a lot, but it's kind of tough to get called.
Don't get me wrong. I hate checking back anytime I feel really confident I have the best hand. And I also don't mind betting 400,000 here for not having to show my cards factor. I'm just saying that, I really don't think you ever get called by worse.
You can't be embarrassed to show your cards with Jack 10.
No, not embarrassed. I mean, you just don't have to show.
Yeah. Okay.
Anytime I don't have to show my cards, I'm pretty happy about it. But who knows? He might just get value against ace high. I might just be, all my analysis might go out the window. And it's he's not going to call you with a 9, and he just calls him with ace high.
Turn went check, is that correct?
No, turn went check back call.
Check back call.
This is another board, exactly what I was talking about, how when it's a bunch of middle cards, you don't want to be in there with pocket 5s or ace X, because your opponent is going to have something by the end of the hand a lot of the time. And this is a great example. By the end of the hand, he got it.
Wow. And Andy's value bet is going to turn out to be a very good play here, as he got his opponent to call him down light. And it makes me...
It's a tighter player, so I think that's why for a player like him, he could definitely go for thin value in spots like that. Although I hate when I own myself in spots like that and value bet, and then they come in with a big raise over me, and I'm like, God, why didn't I just check it? You ever have those moments?
Well, if you know they're never bluffing, it's not so bad.
Right.
Because then you don't have the best hand.
Right,
you just lost the hand. And he only made a 400K bet to where...
You bet 4 into 1.9.
It's not costly.
20% pot.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not costly if he loses. I don't dislike it.
Very affordable to call. No.
It is very affordable to call, as we saw. I only have to win 20% of the time, but actually I win 0 because he's never bluffing. But maybe he would bluff there. But would he just fire off 3 barrels there with worse than ace high? And
you'd have to have 7-6, right?
Yeah, basically.
Basically, Matt's calling to catch him with 7-6, or was there a turn spade draw? I can't remember for the.
I think that there was.
Yeah,
I think that there was.
There aren't too many bluffs there.
There weren't too many bluffs.
They didn't backdoor into some pair or straight type hand.
Yep. Yeah, I wasn't thrilled by the call from Matt. I just don't think there are quite enough hands that he's beating. But then again, yeah, no, I just don't like it. I was trying to think my way into liking it, and I don't really like it. Matt here makes it 255 with a king 10 of diamonds against Mike in the big blind.
Here's again the spot where I said I'd love for Matt Salzberg to open from with a wide range. Assuming he doesn't think that Matt Hagen's going to get too out of line against him. I guess he has cold 4-bet him already.
Yeah,
so,
but with the nuts and versus Salzburg stack, it's going to be not the best spot to be, 3-betting a player on a stack like Salzburg. What does Salzburg have, around 25 big blinds right now?
Right, but Salzburg doesn't know that Hagen had the nuts.
Right.
He just knows he got cold 4-bet.
Right.
And had to fold jacks or something.
Right.
Looks like Mike is going to go to the flop with Matt.
So this is exactly what Salzburg wants. Wants to take a flop. Oh, man.
And this is what we've been saying, is
It's a
that
doozy.
players like this are going to want to peel out of the blind. You're going to gain so many free chips so often, which is why I was saying I love spots like this where we can get these, inferior players with maybe a little bit less experience to voluntarily put chips in there, and just so often we're going to have a chance to take it down post-flop.
Just for the record, no one wants to call out of the blind with Jack-2 offsuit.
Nobody.
It's
Unless
always going to be a losing play.
Unless you have a feeling that it's going to get there on the flop. Yeah?
What is getting there on the flop with Jack-2 offsuit?
Unless you have
Explain that flop to me.
Maybe the guy's got a feeling, guys. Come on.
Especially on the short stack, we don't like this from Mike. He's not really going anywhere in this hand.
If you guys get feelings that you want to play Jack-2, you should probably look at your feelings and do the exact opposite.
Check yourself.
It's like the people that bet on sports. Like, okay, I think Green Bay is going to win this week, so who are they playing? Let's bet on that team. Because my feelings are wrong. And this is why you don't want to
put a bet in, and this player immediately calls the flop. It's not very likely he's going to get many barrels with worse hands out of Matt. So, you're not even going to get a ton of chips even when you do end up hitting with hands like that.
You want to make sure you get paid.
You do. Or have the ability to, right?
A lot of people look at the pre-flop spot where he's getting like 3-1 to call pre-flop and he's going to win 33% of the time, the numbers say. But you have to realize that the pots you lose are going to be much bigger than the pots you win. So don't go purely off the I'm getting 3-1 pre-flop. It's not good enough.
I'm all for some loose big blind play these days, but not Jack-2 loose.
No, that's if you had like Jack-8 maybe.
On a stack, I wouldn't, but...
No, like even then I'm going to fold or shove. Probably shove. But,
Well, Matt Haugen opens to 260 here with a Queen 9. I believe he's raising into the big blind of Andy Wang.
In general, if you can not play out of position, you're going to be pretty well off. So with your 20 big blind stack, you're much better off shoving or folding, whatever hands you plan on playing.
Andy's going to go to a flop with him. Also holding Queen 9.
Oh, the best player's going to win this one, too. Let's see what happens.
Let's see. And it's 8-4-3, 2 clubs.
This is another fun one to check raise for Andy, because Matt probably doesn't have any of this, and Andy could have some of this, or at least some sort of draw here. So that's going to give him a lot of bluff outs. And if a Queen or 9 comes, that could be good.
Andy has checked.
I don't think enough players really attack in these situations. I mean, I'm probably guilty of the same thing. I'm not always going after this, but it's a spot where you're not really representing much by check raising, but your opponent can't really have anything either. And a lot of people are not going to fight back at a final table because there's so much money on the line. They don't want to go broke.
Yeah.
And what if you do randomly have the set?
I mean, what if you just have a draw with a whole bunch of outs? Like, your opponent still doesn't want to call because he has to play a guessing game after that. And, he doesn't want to call with anything that's not made already.
Right. And this is a spot where Matt's probably going to bet with
WPT.com for just $19.99 a month. You can play an unlimited amount of poker where there are 100,000 in prizes every single month, including packages to these live WPT events. There are usually 2 packages per month awarded to one of our events, or at least 2 per an event awarded. So you can sign up to clubwpt.com and we'll see you down here at one of the events.
I actually got to play with the qualifier in this tournament.
Was it Charlie?
I don't know his name.
Okay.
But he was in every hand playing very aggressively.
I see.
That's
on day
awesome.
2.
On day
He
two.
was
Charlie.
He was getting in there. He was gambling.
You get a chance, you got to do it right.
And that's true. He gave himself some shots to get some chips, that's for sure. I also discovered on Club WPT.
Died. I loved that. That was my favorite one for sure.
And he mucked Player of the Year by doing so. Like, if he had finished like 5th or 4th, he would have beaten C-Rock in the...
You just owned him so bad without him even knowing it. You just got in that guy's head.
I don't think I'd play poker anymore if I did that. I'd quit.
My favorite final table is still Dwight's Borgata final table from, I think it was season 9, where he just put on a complete show. And, like, not only was Dwight clowning super hard the whole final table, and everyone was kind of, like, playing into his personality, but the cards fell out perfectly for maximum drama. Like, the hand where he gets it in behind, slams 2 pair on the flop, his opponent's drawing dead, he, like, erupts, goes into the audience, he's high-fiving, and he literally goes, I didn't even look at the river! And then guy slams trips on the river, and just, like... there's like 3 or 4 things that absurd that happened at that final table. Like Kia 3-bet folded jacks to him, 3-handed, 35 bigs. And I was talking to Matt Stout the other day, and he was like, I had Kia in my table. He's still defending the jacks fold. And I was just like, wow, that Dwight final
that.
table is just the best.
I remember that Jack's fold. That was a fun one.
That was a
Lots
shocker.
of life. Whenever Dwight's around, you know it's going to be a fun. And
If you guys ever play with Dwight, don't fold jacks. If he has you beat, he has you beat.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I actually got to play with him on, I think, day 2 of this event for a little while. And his game has definitely changed up because I've seen him play in the past and maybe a couple of years ago. Uh-oh.
Actually, we're probably not going to see too much action here, I bet.
Yeah.
Actually, he made this small re-raise again, so maybe he will get the call pre-flop.
I think Matt, the way he's been playing, will at least appeal here.
This is another spot where I don't hate folding with ace-10 if you raise from under the gun and you get men 3-bet by the guy on the button, even if he is crazy. It's one of these spots where you have huge reverse implied odds. And given that the stacks are pretty deep,
they're the 2 chip leaders now.
I'm not looking to play a big pot here. And if you call, you are going to be playing a relatively big pot.
Yeah.
No, man, I would fold here. I know that probably sounds really tight to everyone. Oh, good fold.
Wow.
Oh.
It's a spot where nothing good is going to come from this. You're either going to win a...
He's going to be pretty relentless.
So you'd even fold ace-jack?
It's pretty close. It's pretty close, but again, there's this guy has a great spot with the more intermediate, or I'm sorry, the more novice player sitting nearby. So yeah, I'd probably just try to take more short spots for this kind of money. I'm just not one to.
Okay.
I may have 4-bet.
I think 4-betting the ace-10 there is sweet.
That would have been fun.
I actually might even like that more than folding.
I think
I would have been wrong this time.
Yeah, me too.
But I still like it a lot.
I think calling there is the only play. I don't even think calling's a disaster, but it can lead to some disaster. Like 10% of the time, it's going to lead to a disaster.
Yeah. Well, there's Mike shoving 1.46 million with ace-king. Now, we haven't seen very much open shoving from him, if none, I think. So I don't believe he's going to be called light here, but I believe the action is currently on Jeremy, and he has yet to relinquish his hand. So
you also see people tend to call up a little bit later versus guys with these stack sizes. What does he have here? About 11?
12-ish blinds?
Right. Yeah. So we're going to see some more marginal spots coming up here as these short stacks begin to get shorter if they don't, double up pretty soon.
Jeremy looks really in. I think once Jeremy tanks for more than 10 seconds, I don't think Jeremy's folding.
Yeah.
Oh,
looks
chop
like
it up.
We're going to have a chop pot unless somebody hits the 4 flush.
Boring.
But they have exact opposite suits, so maybe. We'll find out. Mike's up from the table.
How sad are you if you lose this hand? If you're either player.
Crushed. You're crushed on a
crushed?
WPT final table?
See, I just laugh in these spots because you can't do anything about it.
I'm not sure. Is somebody else in the hand and thinking about this? Is that
well?
What's
It seems as though the cards are not face up. I think
Matt is thinking about
correct.
this.
He is.
Oh wow, Matt must have. God, he must have the nuts to be thinking here.
And wow,
this Matt, different Matt. I guess he has to have the nuts too.
Yeah.
So I think if you have queens here, it's like a snap call.
Snap call. I'm just trying to think what pair here is not the snap call. What pair do you think he's thinking about here? 10s or something? Jacks?
10s I would think has to still be in. I would
go
think like 8s or 9s.
I would go with jacks. I'd probably fold 10s.
Really? I don't think I'm folding 10s.
I'm nitty though.
But it is again coming from a guy who we're going to credit as being probably one of the tighter or more straight up ABC players in the table. So that if anything would give me maybe a little bit more of an inclination to maybe let go of 10s, but definitely not jacks.
Definitely not jacks.
Definitely.
I think when it goes shoves, reshove, it's okay to fold.
Well, I wish I knew what his hand was. It's ace-king versus ace-king. And we'll see if anybody hits a 4 flush here. Otherwise, we'll just slide those stacks back in front of the respective player.
Let's let one of these guys win. Make it fun.
And it's going to be the spade draw of, I think, Jeremy.
Oh,
which
no.
Oh,
no. I was kidding. Is it black?
It's a 10 of clubs.
So lucky.
Mike takes a moment.
Mike got a heart attack.
I think he needed to take a moment to process that wasn't a spade.
That's just fun poker right there. But I would still fold a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, I guess if the chips would be assumed to be going to Druckmann, you'd probably want to not give him any more chips.
Right, like you don't want to give Jeremy chips, but if Mike is going to get the chips, most likely that's okay.
We can deal with it.
That's okay, yeah.
Workable somehow, right?
Sevens is definitely a fold, though.
Yep.
I think we all agree on that one.
One of the few times we've seen it fold around to the blinds here.
Matt's going to raise it up.
We saw one other fold and Jeremy raised, and Matt Salzberg folded. So this was another spot. I guess if I'm in Matt Salzberg's seat now, I may not open quite as much because now Mike is relatively short, and you don't want to lose chips at this point.
I still feel like Mike's just not jamming without a really good hand, so I probably wouldn't change my opening range too much.
Because you think he's not going to go broke anytime soon?
I just think that he's not going to ship over the top of me much at all.
No, Mike's not in the hand. Mike's under the gun.
Yes, I know. I'm saying that if you're in Matt, you're talking Matt Salzberg on the button, and like in this spot I wouldn't open wide.
Yeah, that's what I was talking
okay.
about.
In this spot I wouldn't open wide.
Yeah, the other spot into Mike I would open pretty wide.
Sure, okay.
But even then, not super wide, because now there's such a differential in chips that Matt Salzberg has a lot of equity in hanging out.
Yeah. I thought you were like, he shouldn't open that light against Mike, and I was like, sure, why not? Mike's not going to adjust.
Let's go check on the flop.
No, and bet call, 400,000. And that diamond brings a flush draw for Matt.
Wow.
River 4 diamonds gets real interesting real fast.
Matt has everything.
Yeah.
You're really begging for the money card, huh?
Not going to get it.
Not this time.
And that's probably going to be a card that just shuts down everyone.
You know, James may bluff this. He's shown that he can bluff. And if you're sitting over the queen and Matt's seat, I think it's a pretty easy call. Whenever you have top pair in a spot like this...
Blind versus blind.
Yeah, just call.
Yeah, both players do check. Matt Hagen's going to win this pot with about 1.5 million in it. Pad that chip lead a little bit.
If I'm sitting in Andy's seat now, I would be really tight because both Salzberg and Druckmann have pretty good shove stacks.
Correct.
So Andy really should not raise too often from early position, or really at all.
It does seem like he has made that adjustment. Like, we haven't seen a bunch of light opens from him lately.
That is true.
We saw an ace-king.
Anytime you have two guys on your left that are both short with good shove stacks, you don't want to open too wide, assuming they're capable of shoving, and certainly Jeremy is, and Matt Salzberg seems to be also capable. So
I've noticed Andy also taking the spots from, what is it, under the gun when he's raising into Anderson.
Oh,
Anderson's big blind. Would that be right? I've noticed Andy taking that spot, so maybe he'll be taking more spots like that where it may not. It's difficult in the six-handed format to not be as obvious because everything's late position.
Everything's late position.
So he's still gonna have to find some spots.
Jeremy has opened it at the 250 here against Mike.
And Jeremy starts with about a 20 big blind stack here. Is that correct?
A little more, just over. Yeah.
Shove it, Mike. Get in there.
Mikey.
And
there he goes.
All right. Jonathan asks and he shall receive.
Oh, well, he has the nuts. Of course he shoves.
He looks so comfortable.
Chill
out.
He's like, I got it.
Chill out.
Look at this guy. He's happy.
You saw him like bouncing up and down and smiling?
Up and down, smiling. I got my chips in the middle, dude. I got such a cool hand.
That was just ridiculous. You don't see anyone like that.
You don't
that
see
happy.
bouncers at final tables anymore.
Not a 3,500, you don't.
All right, what does Jeremy have? Let's take a look.
Jeremy apparently has a decision here. I mean, when you don't have a monster hand here, this spot sucks because you're obviously getting a great price, but clearly your opponent has a big hand.
Now, if I have something like King Queen here, I may find a fold, given the way this guy's acting.
And then what pairs? If you're folding King Queen, what else are we folding?
I fold King Queen especially with these stack sizes. Like, you're just calling off your whole stack in a spot where your opponent can't stay seated.
I may fold sevens, I guess. Maybe eights, I don't know. I'm pretty unhappy about folding any of those.
I would be too.
Yep, Jeremy does come to the right conclusion. I don't know his hand.
Dream stories.
Normally I feel like, if you're not that experienced at live tournaments, it's so hard not to donk it off over the course of 5 days. Like, you have a long time in which you need to not make that epic mistake.
It's hard for me not to donk it off over 5 days.
So hard.
It's hard to not give it away in one day.
Yeah.
You have to win so many hands. and not lose very many hands to make it. It's very
cheap
tough.
mistakes, if any, right? Really cheap mistakes, if any.
Matt Salzberg.
Pair of 4s here on the hijack.
I think it's interesting. Everyone's making it 260 instead of 240.
It's kind of weird because even guys on shorter stacks are doing that.
Quite often what happens at a table is one guy makes it 260 and then everyone copies it.
They set the precedent, right? I often see that too. Sometimes when I sit down at a new table, I'll try to start a new precedent with the raised sizing and get them to go a little bit smaller if I notice that they're a little bit too big for what I want to play for.
I try to make it 7x the first time and hope they'll all copy it.
I do that early in the tournament to make people think I'm a fish. Like if I'm sitting with a bunch
Especially
of
with your being a girl, like you
I
can
love
really
it.
pull it off.
If I'm sitting with a bunch of regs who might not know who I am, I did it this summer. I sat with Jason Mercier and those guys, and I was full palming my chips and putting them out like this on, on paired flops. It was amazing. It was incredible.
Oh, we got the small 3-bet again.
I'm guessing the small 3-bet is from Wang.
It is.
415, is that what he made it? Wow. 515, okay.
With an ace and a queen.
Well, my chips will be going in if I'm Matt Salzberg here. Not thrilled about it, but
You're just going for it.
you got the 5s and this guy's 3-bet.
You got the 4s.
4s.
3-bet.
This guy's 3-bet 5 times so far.
It's at least his 4th.
And, yeah, so
Versus Salzburg?
it doesn't matter.
I think it does.
I'm concerned that Salzburg's going to like flat and then make a mistake on the flop.
No, just don't flat. I'm okay with folding and I'm okay with shoving. What is he doing? Look like he's counting out flatting chips.
Don't you flat it, Matt.
Oh no, he's counting out 20 stacks. That's a little different. If he shoves here, he's going to get called.
Oh, yeah.
And he'll have a coin flip.
How much does Salzburg have here? About...
He started the hand a little under 3 million.
Okay.
I mean, 4s are not a great hand to shove because when you do get called, you're never in amazing shape. But against someone who is playing a lot of hands, and against someone who knows that you are in kind of a tough spot and shouldn't really want to go broke, he should be applying some amount of pressure. I would probably go with it.
This would be one of those good spots to apply that pressure to with the stack size the way it is.
Exactly. So if it looks like a good spot for the guy to apply pressure, and he will do that some percentage of the time, he has to have some bluffs in his range.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Matt's up against Andy Wang's top of his range here.
Matt lets it go.
Nitty fold.
Well, at least, hey, he read.
Like the World Series circuit events.
That his track sheet too, you'll see that national championship, that one was his biggest score. So I think that he does grind typically the smaller buy-ins.
You're right. His largest score prior to that was winning a $350 event for, I think it was like a re-entry event for 50 grand.
Okay.
And so that score
I
at
thought it
the
had been
10K
smaller,
was
but-
like 100-ish.
Right.
So moving up to the big leagues.
Moving up to the big leagues. He's going to break that record today. 6th place payout is 147. So even if this is a catastrophe for him.
I'm surprised to see this guy pushing his chips around. I mean, yeah, he had jacks. What does he have here? I'm curious now.
Well, this is going to be a fold from Matt for sure.
Yeah.
It has to be.
You don't need to be calling shoves with hands like Queen 10, even if the guy is shoving a lot. Because
Also, you're going to get a free show. And oh no way, he mucked his hand.
oh, maybe he was bluff. Doing good things with his stack. I think he's not like calling and blinding off or anything like that. Whenever you get short like this, it's mandatory.
He did
to
a
play.
little of that. We did see a jack deuce.
Since that break,
Okay.
he has played well with his hands. Yeah, that jack deuce was not great.
And sometimes the way that people understand stack sizes isn't going to be
Innovative strategy.
interesting strategy. If he wins, we'll know what we're doing wrong.
That is true.
And his record will be perfect.
Right.
1 WPT, 1 win.
One for
He
one.
retires as the greatest WPT player of all time.
It's pretty good record. Now he'll play the next one, and then he'll win that, and then he'll have 2 championships and be done.
It's like an Andy Frankenberger story.
Yeah, he'll be Frankenberger.
No disrespect. Love Andy Frankenberger.
And he's not actually retired.
He has an interesting game.
Yeah, and he does have an interesting game.
It's very much his own.
It's his own, and like whatever we're talking about being standard, he's not not listening.
And I like when I see the non-typical plays and I see it.
This is a call here, but sometimes you have guys, like, say, a Mike, who are so clearly communicating the strength of their hand and their mannerisms and the way they're carrying themselves and how they're conducting their chip play that, I don't know, just the math needs to go out the window. Like, you need to just throw that stuff out and be willing to trust a read. And I think that some of the live pros that have managed to stick around over time and still succeed are guys who have begun to...
in spots where they have like a whole lot more junk in their range or a whole lot more premium hands in their range. And ranges are different. They're not so much... You don't necessarily start with the whole opening range going to the flop. You start with often like half of that range going to the flop, and then you go from there.
Here we have James.
Also, I found live against a lot of the weaker players, I save a ton of continuation bets whenever I know that they have something.
Based on the way they're acting?
Yeah,
or
because...
just how they like to play?
No, because they're obviously excited. You
Yeah.
know, like say it comes... Say I raise with, I don't know, 9-7, it comes ace 4-2. I normally continuation bet, but if I see the guy's happy, just check fold.
I dig.
If you save 2 big blinds once every 3 orbits, it makes it a whole lot easier.
All right, in this hand we see James just over min-raise from the small blind with a 9-3 of spades, and Mike makes the call with a 7-3 offsuit.
Dominated.
So much for that not calling off his chips thing.
You know, Mike has a few leaks that could be very easily plugged.
Yes.
I believe. You know,
Yes.
stop calling it from the blinds with garbage. Don't stop showing your hand. Stop showing expressions with your face and the way you act and whatnot. And besides that, he actually hasn't done too much bad. He has just a few... Actually, I think a lot of poker players, whenever I coach my students, when they first come to me, usually they have 3 or 4 things they do wrong in their game. When they fix that, they are playing significantly better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's exactly the case with Mike. All right, well, it goes check, bet, call on the flop. And the turn, I believe, is a face card, a queen, perhaps?
Mike's like, what do I have?
Yeah, and he's checking for a diamond.
That's what. That's what he's doing.
Both players do check.
He is going to be sad when he sees that 9-3.
And the river is a king. And they're going to get to chop it up.
Don't show it. Oh, that's the one you don't want to show. Because now he knows you're defending with any 2 in the big blind.
But he has to show.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
That's okay, because you were right that they...
Of not having to steal the pot. I'd rather just have something.
Stealing it pre-flop.
I'd rather steal it whenever
before
I'm
your
going to steal
opponent
it.
Gets cards.
Before he has the chance to make a pair.
Fair enough.
I mean, I don't know. I don't like playing out of position. Is that crazy? I don't really care who I'm against. Unless they're really passive.
I'm like 95% with you, but this is the spot where you're just not that concerned about being out of position. You're like, all right, sweet. This guy is never going to put me in a difficult spot.
Right. There'll be a few times in your life where you'll have an opportunity to not worry about it, and that could be one of them. It's a soft spot. And as you were saying, the guy has leaks right there, so...
Yeah, but if he's calling too wide and you have 9-3, that's not good for you. You don't want him defending with the 10-4. But he's going to call and then...
He's going to miss
But he's going to miss the flop a whole bunch and just snap fold.
Or like some flops that he does.
You saw what happened there.
Bottom pair or something.
I mean,
they hit pairs.
So... what I'm saying, though, is that...
It'll work with a pretty high frequency, and sometimes it will not, obviously, when he hits, a pair that... If he flops a pair that's middle pair or top pair...
If he had 10-4 on that hand instead, he would have played it perfectly.
Who would have played it perfectly?
Mike would have. He would have called pre-flop. Well, not perfectly.
That's not perfectly.
he would have called pre-flop.
That's a mistake.
And then James would have... James checked the flop. Mike would have checked behind. Then maybe James bets the turn. Mike folds. So he made no errors throughout the entire hand. If when he misses...
Get a bad player to put chips in with actually a better hand and then fold.
But no, post-flop he had the worst hand at that point.
Yeah.
So...
But
he made a mistake when he put chips in with 10-4, though. With no chance of taking it down without just hitting pairs.
James checked because he flopped the pair, right?
He had the best hand pre-flop.
I guess, but he doesn't often.
But what I'm saying, though, is with 9-3, like the absolute trash part of your range, you don't really want to be in the hand.
Yeah, I still probably go a little bigger, like you said. But I also think that Amanda's side of the argument, which is it really doesn't matter if we get called, is also quite relevant here, because it doesn't matter if you get called. The dude's going to fold every time he doesn't have it.
He's just going to play so straight up and exploitable that it's just like free money like 75% of the time.
But it's also pretty sweet when it's just like, oh, here's those chips pre-flop. Didn't even take an opportunity to flop a pair.
Yeah, if anything, I'd go bigger just because he's willing to put more chips in, and I can still, and that's just more of a pot for me to win when I do yoink it away.
And Andy takes down this pot. He defended raise from Matt.
He's kind of at the top.
He's kind of at the top. He's certainly more top than bottom right now.
Yeah.
We have 75-minute levels here at this final table?
I think so. 60.
60.
We are here in 60.
Okay, 60-minute levels. Still a decent amount of time to work with for, you know, even some of these short stacks don't have to be super eager.
He'll be playing 8160 next, I believe. And I think that level will probably push people into a little more play.
I'm surprised we haven't had a bust out yet, given the way the chips are flying at this table. I'm kind of surprised one of the big stacks hasn't busted yet to the other big stack, because
those guys are going for
it.
I think this time it's just a reflection of field size and quality of structure.
Yeah. They do a very slow, pretty slow structure here.
Love the slow structures. Gives you time to really play.
Yeah. I just love the Borgata tournaments.
I do too.
Great value. It's such a comfortable place to play.
It's just
sweet structures.
Yeah, really well kept place too. And the dealers, you know, a lot of the time when I travel, I find that the dealers and the floor rulings are one of the most tilting things that I deal with on a day-to-day basis traveling the live tournament circuit. And here at Borgata, they really have their act together. They have some real top quality dealers. The floor is amazing. The poker managers are amazing. Very tentative. So love playing here. My favorite place for sure.
Yep. Hotel's nice, property's nice. I don't know.
Hotel was just updated too. You liked that? You saw?
Yeah, I'm staying here. I wasn't aware that it was updated. But yeah, let's see. In this hand, action is folded over to Mike.
These guys have stopped gambling. What's going on?
There is our gamblers. Where are our gamblers? Mike folds. Now on Andy.
Whenever you notice a table generally knitting it up, you should probably get to work and start opening it up.
Or order a round of shots or something. Some coffee, maybe.
I think that Andy is the guy who realized that.
Yeah, and Andy is... I actually like what Andy's doing. He's picking spots to open it up when everyone doesn't seem to want to do anything. And he's getting away with it. I mean, the stuff he's done so far hasn't really worked out that well for him, but he's
playing well.
He's trying. You know, he's giving himself shots.
I haven't really seen anything from him where I was like, whoa, what is he doing here?
Yeah.
I just think that a lot of hands early on did not fall his way.
Right, he tried the one bluff on the river, which I think we all thought was okay.
Yep.
I guess that was the only real giant hand he lost.
Yeah, and we didn't even get to see exactly how that one played out, but there was like a 4 straight and a 3 flush on the river, and it was just clearly a spot worth going for it. I believe that Matt has 3-bet him. He has to 740.
I was watching a poker video the other day, and they were talking about 3-betting out of position with not polarized ranges, like the best hands, and then 3-betting it in position with polarized ranges. And I've been thinking a lot about that. So quite often, I would not 3-bet with stuff like Ace-Jack in the big blind here.
Yeah.
They were talking about that may be the best play, to 3-bet with stuff like Ace-Jack here instead of King-6 suited.
What was their logic?
It was I don't know. They just said it.
Yeah,
it was that Sauce guy. You know Sauce?
Yes. And he's very good, of course.
It was in one of his videos.
But is Sauce talking about doing this in heads-up cash or short-handed cash? Where...
Yeah, six-handed cash games.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at here.
Kind of, but 6-handed higher stakes.
He's also talking about limping from the small blind as the default.
As the default?
There's no, he said he raises 0% of hands from the small blind.
What?
When it folds to him.
So you're saying Sauce is distributing fraudulent training videos.
He says he open limps about 70% of hands from the small blind and planning to limp call some and limp re-raise some.
And limp fold some?
And limp fold some. I'm like, okay, we'll think about that one too. But actually, that's not such a bad play.
I mean, I do limp the small blind sometimes, but not that much.
Like, I literally never open limp the small blind unless the player in the big blind's really not great.
There's plenty of people I limp the small blind against.
For me, well, yeah, if I'm like trapping, like if I'm short and I know I'm versus like a Russ Crane type or something, you know what I mean? Like, it's not happening all that often, although I do remember seeing a video a few years ago with Fildo, and it was before his run in the main event, where he exemplified the whole limping in
yes, he did.
quite often. And it was it was online way before years before his main event run. And I remember thinking that was a very unconventional and interesting concept when I had seen that. And anything you can do to mess with your opponent's head is, as long as you can keep track of what you're doing and what it all adds up to in your opponent's mind, then hey, use it.
There are some people who just specialize in playing head games, like even more so than their strategy is fundamentally sound.
Right.
They specialize in head games.
Will the Thrill is really great at getting in people's heads. Dwight too.
does the same.
Right.
Will the Thrill just plays good cards.
Interesting.
How's that getting in people's heads? And then he'll berate you.
Plays good cards, makes 2 pair, Bucks River.
Well,
Yeah,
if you can,
that's
if
a
you can
strategy.
berate people during the hand and it gets them to make the call that you want them to make, then you're doing something right. You know what I mean? Like, if they wouldn't have otherwise called, then use your table talk to do what you need to do to get that call or get that fold.
I think if the vast majority of players studied poker psychology and psychology in general and learned to not get too involved in like the emotional aspects of the game, a lot of these guys would be in trouble that play a lot of this head game type stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Like if this guy's going to 3-bet me every hand I open, I'm not going to get frustrated. I'm just going to develop a strategy to win.
Right, well, that's more mathematical based and not emotional based. I think it's a difference between a lot of the more amateur and the more professional players as we learn to come at it from more of a what's exploitable, what's most optimal, what's mathematically correct, and not so much getting our emotions in it,
I was playing this cash game the other day, and one of my friends 3-bet this kid literally every time he opened for about an 8-hour period. And this kid was just going nuts. And I'm sitting here thinking, why is the kid not 4-betting?
Right.
And he 4-bet one time, and my friend folded because he had nothing. And,
that was his stand.
People just they just do things that are not rational for some reason.
This is kind of an odd hand here, guys. And he opened, and then Matt just decided to flat the button with ace-9 offsuit, which I think is a little loose. I would rather just 3-bet the button.
I think Matt's been generally tight.
Yeah.
He's been playing a lot of hands, so he may not appear to be tight at the table.
But he also hasn't shown anything psycho, so...
Well, he's cold 4-bet once.
Right.
And he's played some hands.
I know, but I mean, when he has to show down, like, he showed down hands.
He
showed down queens, he showed down... I want to say...
I don't think he's shown down too much.
He showed down queens. He showed down the hand he won against Andy when Andy tried to bluff him, which was some kind of top pair. He showed down...
Yeah.
Maybe one other hand, but nothing where he's been exposed for getting out of line.
Matt Salzberg opens again. He's opened a few times. He had ace-jack suited last time. But Mike is calling with ace-10. So this is another spot where you should certainly shove.
You should just jam all day.
I think this is a pretty standard shove spot for him.
And I'm guessing that Andy's going to come along pretty often, but no, he will fold here.
These guys are not very good at showing us their cards for some reason.
Nope. And the flop is Jack 8-8, 2 hearts.
We hear that Matt Salzberg has a jack, we believe. And we have this, again, another funny lead from Mike, where I think he's leading when he thinks he has the best hand a lot of the time.
I don't know what this lead is.
He thinks he has the best hand with ace high, so he's going to bet. Wow, Matt Salzberg.
He has 2 backdoor draws.
Matt Salzberg goes all in.
It's curious.
Well, we hear he has a jack. And hope Mike folds, for his sake.
I don't think he'll take too long before folding.
Maybe he puts Matt on a draw.
Seems like a little Hollywood to me.
I just don't think that Mike's the hero like that.
No.
I just don't think he just calls it off with ace high here, even if he puts his opponent on 9-10.
No, he's betting here as a quote-unquote feeler with what he thinks is the best hand. He's going to fold here 100%.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
So this should be interesting because now as the blinds get bigger, we're going to see these shallow stacks really start to get into a bit of a tighter spot, which is also going to have a, maybe perhaps a dynamic shift with the big stack too, where, again, as we've been saying this whole tournament so far, the big stacks may want to wait out since these short stacks are effectively becoming shorter right now.
Yeah, I think if you think your opponent's leading with a draw there, you should probably go ahead and shove with a jack.
Call, flop, get it in on safe turns.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many draws out there.
Why not go ahead and shove, though?
What? Because sometimes the turn is the 7 hearts and I want to snap fold.
Yeah.
Why give a chance to the heart to get there and not just shove on the flop then?
Because
When that player type...
I mean, well, we're talking that player type where I agree with the flop shove, but
We're talking him.
Oh, and you have Jack 3 in this spot?
Instead of Ace-Jack. Ace-Jack's easy shove, because he'll call worse jacks, but Jack 3
But is he really
tougher.
but has he led... As far as we know, he's leading with, like, semi-bluffish or, like, mid-value-ish or
But what
mid-equity
is
type hands.
what is mid-value on Jack 8-8?
Wouldn't be thrilled about having top pair against Mike's lead?
Well, no, because there's so many bad turns.
Probably shoving, just because with the Jack 3, because more of Mike's range is going to be those draws than top pairs.
Yeah.
I probably just call because I think it's very possible that Mike has a strong draw that he's not going to fold, whereas on the turn, if I've got the Jack 3, like, I can probably make a very informed decision about the strength of Mike's hand. Like, just getting to see him take an action first is a really valuable piece of information against somebody like Mike.
That's why you don't open the Jack 3.
Yeah,
Not that actually happened, because we're just talking theory now.
All right, well, with the blinds up, the min raise is to 300,000, and so Andy on the cutoff has made it 300 with Queen 9, and everyone quickly folds.
In contested pots, he's still keeping himself in the action, and as long as he can pull out the occasional open and take down and the occasional 3-bet, he's still going to have a decent enough image where when he does get those hands, I think he's still going to be in pretty good shape versus these players with stacks. I don't think they're going to think, oh, this guy's tightened up too much for me to play with him.
If you steal twice per orbit, you're going to get rich pretty quick. And he's opening like 2.5 times an orbit, it seems. Maybe 2. Probably around 2. And he steals 1 and then plays a pot the other time. It's a good deal. It does.
I think he's like second in chips. Mike's been kind of short and hasn't been that scared to get it in. It seems like Jeremy's kind of shortest.
Not James, Jeremy.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Jeremy's probably like second to last in chips.
Yeah.
And Mike is last in chips. And although I'm starting to wonder whether that's the case anymore.
Even if all that's true, you still have to play some hands.
Yeah.
You don't want to sit here and blind off. Unless he's had 9-4 every hand.
I think he kind of has. I mean, we haven't been able to see his exact cards, but... Alright, here we go. So Matt has made it 300,000. And Mike, shoving light for Mike, has put in 1.6 million with ace-7 offsuit. I still like the play. I think the play is fine, especially you got 11 blinds, button versus big blind. I think this time that Matt will call. It's just so cheap, and he's got a suited hand, and Matt has announced call.
I'm telling you guys, his shoving range is wider than you all think. He's definitely shoving stuff like King 10.
That spot he might have, but when it was under the gun and under the gun 1 earlier, like I really didn't think that was a spot he was shoving King 10 or like
maybe
King Jack. But button versus big blind, he's going to go for it a little.
He's
more.
not a super net, I don't think.
Yeah. Oh, this pot's probably going to end up being chopped here. Up is ace 8-8.
We need a big card.
Alright, here comes the turn.
Are rooting for a chop for the fun of it?
There we go. The queen is going to provide that chop unless Matt can find a 9. Or I guess another queen.
A queen.
Another queen. And the 3 is not going to do it, so we have a chop pot. Matt took his shot at eliminating Mike, but not quite.
Mike has had some heart attacks in this tournament.
Standard.
So when you play a poker tournament and you shove in a standard spot and lose, don't get upset. Don't think you made any giant errors. Don't go get drunk and do crazy stuff. Just go to the next tournament.
What is your guys' next tournament?
I'm playing some $3,500 tournament in Florida.
That's right.
Me too.
That will be the Lucky Hearts Open at the Seminole Hard Rock in mid-February.
Are you going there?
I will be doing the final table there, but not playing that one. Down there, and they said, yeah, it's a lot of regs these days. That just when they changed the law over, obviously the cash games were amazing, but over time, those have become less and less value. And I don't know if that's true or just one person's evaluation.
Maybe it's because people have flocked there, and it's...
I think that's a big issue, is that people have flocked there, and that, you know, there's only a few places in the United States that there's both a lot of poker action and there's like a nice climate that you'd want to live in. And so when it opened up in Florida, which was surprising.
For a 10K?
Yeah.
That's great. Especially in the wake of Black Friday when people were kind of hit up for money at that point.
Yeah, that was...
I wouldn't have expected to hear a number like that.
First
People
10K.
I'm saying people in Florida are rich.
They are.
Or collecting Social Security checks.
Yeah, one or the other. They have no problem playing the 10Ks.
I love the occasional grandpa at my table. My favorite.
All right, and this time we have Andy opening the button to 300,000, and Jeremy shoving 1.7 with a pair of twos, so he is quite short. And there's some explanation as to why he hasn't been playing much. He's been in that awkward stack size.
This may be a call, actually.
I was just going to say, I've seen Huang make calls like this before.
Wouldn't shock me.
No, and it wouldn't shock
At least
me either.
win
And
40%.
I think that being who he is, I think he's going to end up putting in the call here is my guess.
I like a call here purely because you want to get Jeremy off of this short stack, because that should sort of handcuff Andy to where he can't open up every hand like he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
You'd rather Jeremy have more chips so he's not going to shove on you every time you open. This goes back to that stack thing. You know, here you want your opponent to have a bigger stack so you can open more hands.
You give your opponent some of your chips so you can exploit them more. Interesting.
Well, you're not. It's just like that's the worst case scenario, and that's not so bad.
Right.
Whereas the best case scenario is he calls and wins and has that guy totally gone, and he has more chips.
I'm surprised if he hasn't called by now. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought he was
fold.
going to, but he took a pretty long time there. Yes.
So I'm not shoving some super tight range over anyone whenever I have that stack. I'm just trying to make stuff happen.
Is Jeremy folding like Jack 9 suited there?
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know.
I hope. We haven't seen his cards.
That's true.
And Andy's opened every hand, so he's had opportunities.
But yeah, not seeing what people are folding, it's a little trickier to get a read on what their ranges are.
We've only seen pretty good cards so far.
Mm-hmm.
This is like watching the other televised stuff. They only show the big made hands. I want to see some junk hands getting played. Let's go.
Jeremy opens. He probably has the nuts. Oh, he doesn't. See, this is good.
Mm-hmm.
He's about to give away that $300,000 he just stole.
Yep, this time it's going to work.
Where he's kind of been sitting there, you know what I mean? And he can probably get a little bit more credit because of his stack size and because he's been playing a little bit tighter. And I like picking the occasional spot like that.
It's never bad to raise on the button.
Can't be bad.
Especially with a good hand, like Queen 8 suited.
Right.
Oh, see Andy open this hand.
Andy's not scared. He's going after it.
He's back now.
I like what he's doing. This is how you win tournaments right here. Or take fifth.
It seems like it's gone really. He's seemed to adjust to the flow.
Yeah,
he's flow really well.
Clear it is. And that'll be okay. Then you'll know. But this is one of those spots where I would just try to test it out a little bit.
And it was the whole table captain presence as well, where if Andy's unstopped and remains, uncontested, he's going to get that table leader momentum going. So, Hagen could definitely take that away with a few spots.
Definitely.
Matt definitely buying into the 100% opening range on the button against Mike. The 9-3 offsuit here.
Mike has a very short stack at this point. I'm not sure if I would go with the 9-3.
I go with a 9-3. I still think that
he's just going to call and check fold every time.
He's going to do that a bunch. He's just not going to shove quite wide enough. Wow, did he just call ace-9 suited?
Does he? No.
How does he shove ace-7 and not jam ace-9
see?
suited? That can't be real. I must have misread that.
It's gone. It was obviously not true.
No,
no.
That's real.
True.
Oh, he has the right suit, though.
Wow.
Oh, look, he's going for the check raise this time, I hope.
He is, yeah. Check.
Shut.
Oh, no.
Wow.
No way.
This is actually going to work out good for him.
Until Matt slams a 3. Oh, that ends this hand.
No, it doesn't end this hand.
I know he's going to get an extra bet.
He's going to get a bet unless
he's going to get an extra bet, but I mean...
The only thing he can do bad here is lead. If he leads...
Is he going to get an extra bet? Does he have enough of a stack bet back for the guy?
Oh, Matt's definitely betting this. You got to bet. You don't even have to bet that big, which I don't think he did. I think he bet like 400.
Well, he only has...
Doesn't the guy only have
800
or 600 or something?
Wow, is he going to get all of it?
Wow, he's just going for it, isn't he? This guy.
That's awesome. Don't put a diamond.
Ace on the river.
I think that might kill the action.
Yeah.
Because if he has a king, he's probably going to...
And he just open shoved.
Bad lead. So that's the spot where you should check for sure because... you're calling.
And Matt gonna mock consider. Nope.
Matt folds, Mike takes it down.
Well, that turned out very... Let's lose the ace-10 somehow.
Yeah.
Like an absolute min bet, so your opponent just never credits you and just piles all the time in your face.
Bet 150 of your remaining 525.
Just bet 1 unit. Oh, I bet 1K into 15K however many times.
Well, the min bet is 150.
Jam.
So you could bet a third of his stack on the river.
Okay, well that it wouldn't work so well in that spot, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah, a little bit more chips, that would be a cute, sassy play to put in there in the playbook.
I kind of feel like James has been kind of tight also. Even though he has made that one bluff. Here he opens us. That's good.
Looks Looks like Andy might play this pot with him.
James is the one that had the 6 million stack, right? Kind of the tough chip stack. Whenever you're the middle stack, you really want to wait around for the short stacks to go broke, but that's not really happening here.
Oh, it's interesting to see whether Andy recognizes that dynamic and applies more pressure to James by 3-betting him.
If I'm at this table, James would be the guy I would be going after, for sure. Nothing against James, just he has you're on his left, and he has a bad chip stack. The guy who has the bad chip stack is the one you need to go after.
We're gonna raise.
I can't tell if that's a tiny re-raise or a call, but I think it's a call.
It's a re-raise.
It's the tiny re-raise.
5.
He re-raises so small, like
You can't
2/3 of the time he puts his chips in. I'm like, he's done something.
We don't know what.
You have to count the yellows.
Interesting that he tiny 3-bets here instead of just calling. He's got a very unique style in some spots like these.
He hasn't really called that often. He's doing a lot. He's doing a lot of the small 3-betting.
He just always wants control of the hand, I guess.
Well, he isn't he out of position here, so he's just gaining that control pre-flop, and I think it's just good for his image overall because he can do it with such a wide range.
All right, so
Wide fold. I might level myself into never folding after.
I think you have to fold given the 2 short stacks.
Yeah.
You do not want to go broke.
Which
Strictly
means
because
maybe you
of
should
the
never
ICM
4-bet in the
stuff.
first place. I mean, I just call. Like it's.
I would call, yeah.
Yeah, it's 300K more. But I would 4-bet before I folded.
See, I would look at my hand as like having such high value that if I'm going to 4-bet, I'm like playing it for like a high value hand versus this guy.
But it doesn't against any reasonable any reasonable range that gets in against you. You're going to probably have like 40% equity. Even if you know you have 50% equity, you don't want to get in.
Yeah, for all those chips.
If you have like 55% equity, you don't want to get it
No,
in.
you're right. Fair enough.
Just because they're 2 short guys.
Right.
And I mean, he has 6 million chips. Going broke now would be a huge disaster. And of course, you're going to get bluffed sometimes, but that's what.
Premiums and medium strength.
Right, and if that's the case, ace 10's pretty good.
Ace 10's faring pretty well.
Yeah.
Down, Mike. Mike fold.
Salzburg's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, I don't think he's. I mean, he's raised a few hands. He hasn't had much to work with, unfortunately.
He's in the mid-20s big, so.
Kind of what we've seen from him, like I said, throughout the tournament, but he's still in there.
Andy rips it for 20 big blinds, it looks
Interesting.
like.
I like it against those 2 stacks.
Yeah,
I think that's fine.
these hands like King X, Ace X, small pairs, those are okay to shove because there's not really a great play, but I'm not too sure I love this play in general.
I wonder what Matt showed there. It was a face card.
Probably Queen 3 or
Jack
something.
10, you said?
Yeah.
Jack 10, maybe. In tabling, it's kind of like real easy to flick, but I think in live poker, it kind of changes against the 20 BB stacks. I don't know if I still take spots like that.
I don't do
as
too much
frequently.
20 big shoving live poker.
Yeah.
It changes, but you have to realize that at this exact table, you're effectively playing an online poker tournament, and Andy's seat versus 2 guys who know how to play.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about how like live poker changes a lot, but it only changes a lot if you're playing against bad players or players who do things that
Over-adjust.
Yeah, they do stuff that like constricts their ranges or whatever. But that's not really the case against those 2 guys. So you effectively are playing an online tournament. Like if Andy opens into any of the 3 guys to his left, it's sort of like playing online poker for the most part.
Right.
What's going on here? Looks up. Okay. I thought that Jeremy was going to jam, but he decided not to. James is open to 315 with ace queen first to act. Now on Salzburg in the small he folds, and Matt Haugen also folds.
They used to not be like that, and you do play all night with
It would be 60 minutes all the way through.
Sometimes they had, probably back in the day, if the tournament was 90-minute levels, then you get heads up and you had 90-minute levels. And
See, I like a lot of
sometimes
heads up play. I think that's like
when you're playing for $1 gajillion, you do, but when you're staff
let's earn
or
your way to the
production or the casino themselves, they all hate it.
Most times I got there, we played till 5 a.m. And just how it was.
Starting at what, probably 4?
4, yeah.
So a 13-hour final table?
Yeah. Well, heads up was usually like 6 hours or something.
Wow. And Mike with a pair of aces here, and he's got 20 big, so it's one of those guys where, the issue is he just made it 400. So if you just open raised and now you're making a smaller raise, I feel like, and Mike doesn't know this, it looks really suspicious. And they stop peeling the big so loose and stay statue during the hand.
we're just coaching him through this event.
Free coaching. All you have to do is make the WPT final table.
And have a friend to convey info to you.
If you ever see a guy alter his raise size significantly or even a little bit, you should definitely get out of the way most of the time.
I like to switch it up just to mess with people.
Well, it depends on who you're against. If you're against someone competent, then it's a little bit different. But if it's against a guy who is, an amateur player...
I only do it versus competence. Versus amateurs, I'm not going to notice enough or know what the heck it means enough to have it make any difference for me to open to 4x or 3-bet 4x instead of anything otherwise. You do it versus regs and they're just like, what?
When people alter it, it's usually either almost always a bluff or almost always for value. And if you can figure that out, you're in good shape.
I just randomly do it. Just randomly open
so you think
3.8x or something.
Do you use an inanimate object to randomize it?
Someone said they always look at their watch, and whenever the hand
that's a great way to
lands on a certain place, on their watch, they always
3-bet, because then you can pick a certain percentage, and you're just like, well, I 3-bet every time it's on the
it's
first second hand of 5 second.
So they're sitting here like this, like, oh, what time is it?
Yep. Whenever the second
3-bet now.
Time to 3-bet. Yeah.
Time to 3-bet.
3-bet time.
That's what we should start doing every time we're gonna go 3-bet. Be like, 3-bet.
Do you know what time it is? 3-bet time.
We have a call out of position, so he's not listening.
Maybe. Depends what his hand is.
Doesn't matter.
We haven't given him any pointers of
Jeremy only has 15 big blinds, right?
Yeah, ish. I think he got a little more, but ish.
So he should be shoving or folding.
Up the mic.
What if he leads here? What do you do if you're in Jeremy's seat?
Oh, I would never fold.
You're shoving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got overs. I've got a gut shot.
What if you get check shoved on here?
I probably don't fold.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty.
I mean, even if the guy shows you his hand, maybe he's got 7-5 or something, it's probably a call. I don't know for sure, but Jeremy's so short.
Folds.
Very quick fold. L action on Jeremy. Now Matt, both the short stacks fold. Over to James on the button. Looks like he's going to 330. No, maybe a little less. 315. King 10.
It's a nice little hand to get in trouble.
And he doesn't want to play this time. Lets it go.
No, that was insane.
I mean, he's certainly going to fold King 10 if he's folding it. Actually, he probably wouldn't have folded King 10
He's gotten Ace 10 to fold from 2 different players with plenty of chips. We're using a tiny re-raise.
Isn't that a little wild to you?
It is a little wild to me.
Well, the first one I liked, second one I didn't like.
Correct.
And eventually, if you realize the guy's men 3-betting everything, you should probably start 4-betting a lot or start calling a lot and then raising a lot of flops. You just can't let the guy get away with it. That's the gist of it. Is if you let this guy get away with it, he's going to win pretty quickly.
Well, I think that Matt's going to 3-bet. Yeah, Matt's going to 3-bet Matt, as it turns out, and a small one at that.
Matt on Matt violence.
Yeah. I think with 315.
305, I think. Oh, 315. Okay.
Up to 600.
Well, Matt Salzberg's been pretty tight so far, so he may find a fold here. But
I think he's folding.
This actually probably isn't that bad of a fold, because he is raising under the gun.
Yep. Next to act, saying, hey, I know for sure that I've got to get this in with you, so I have a good hand.
And Hagen's been pretty tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably get out of here. I wouldn't be happy about getting out of here, but...
There's a non-zero chance that Salzberg calls. I don't think he'll do that, but there's a 5% chance that happens.
What, that Salzberg flats?
Yeah.
No. Really?
I don't think he'll do it.
You want to give me 20 to 1?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, I'm almost certain he would not.
Yeah, almost.
His
I'm almost certain too.
Yeah, his fundamentals are pretty on point.
He sure takes his time thinking about stuff.
Hey, when you're playing for almost 800 grand, you should.
I try to think about the commentators whenever I'm playing at the table, and if
good fold,
I recognize they want to get out of here at some point, that's the guy you want to hop right on top of.
There's your target. Action now. Andy with the button.
I heard he's going to grind Hollywood after this tournament. He says he has to go grind some.
Grind script writing?
Grind script writing for Hollywood.
Yeah.
Well, he said if he wins this, he may consider just doing the poker thing for a little bit longer, hey?
Why not? He keeps playing, keeps winning.
Yeah.
And he has moved in on the button with an ace-4 suited.
This is another 15 big blind shove.
Yeah, against Jeremy and Matt.
Maybe even a little bit less.
Might be a little more versus Jeremy and a little less versus Matt.
Jeremy's thinking about it. Wow. At this point, Jeremy probably has, I'm not going to say significantly more, but certainly some more than Matt. But I don't think Matt's going to be the guy who's going to get himself broke quickly.
No.
So I think if Jeremy has something decent here, he should probably go with it. And seeing Andy shove here, you can pretty easily call off with stuff like ace-9 and probably stuff like king-queen.
I call off pretty comfortably with ace-9.
Those hands become very premium.
Is king-jack your cutoff, or you're saying king-queen? I think king-jack I'm still snapping off.
Yeah, king-jack I'd probably call too.
All right, I was just curious.
Like something like ace-5 I would probably fold, though, which is kind of weird. Because with ace-5 you're going to be dominated a lot of the time.
And a bunch of the time that you get it in, you only have 1 over instead of 2.
Right. You have to think about their shoving range. This Andy's shoving range is going to be a lot of ace-x, which ace-5 does bad against. A lot of king-x, which, of course, ace-5 does good against. And a lot of pairs, which ace-5 does bad against.
See, that's the problem with me. Sometimes when I look at spots like this, I get taken back to the DJK button shove ranges here, and I'm like, oh, this guy could have 6-7 easily.
Yeah, my brain still does that. I'm like, people have
and I'm like,
anything.
No. I'm like, no, he can't. No, he doesn't. Does he? Maybe.
That's not how most people play. Although maybe it is. I mean, he's only had the button twice in the spot, and he shoved both times.
Yep.
But he has had
king-10 and ace-4 suited.
He has had that range, that shoving range.
Without knowing that, though, he just seems like one of those,
Yeah, he's piled it in twice now.
Those fun, crazy Asian guys, right? So who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows how Jeremy's going to take this?
So what does Jeremy call with here? Give us a range.
King.
Andy seems happy.
He usually looks.
No one's going to give me a range. You guys aren't going to do it.
What he gets it in with here?
Yeah, what's he going to get it in with?
Like mostly, I'm just trying to think what are his cutoff hands. Like,
yes. So
the cutoff hand. So I think he gets in king queen, snap folds king 10, and king jack is his cutoff. And I think for the ace, it's probably like ace 7-ish, right around in there.
I don't think I'm folding ace-5.
I'm folding ace-5 for sure.
I don't think I'm folding ace-5.
Snap fold.
Especially if it's the same color and the same suit and everything.
Oh, well, suitedness. What about pocket twos?
I mean...
Look at Andy. He's like paying for drinks. He's hanging out.
His decision-making is over. He knows what he's done.
What about pocket twos?
You're like calling off the flip. I don't know.
I don't know if I call twos there.
Fold. What about pocket threes?
Fold. It's the same thing, isn't it?
No.
Ish.
What about pocket fours?
Let's go.
Probably.
Pocket fours is easy to get in.
Yeah.
Pocket threes is, I think, it's a close enough fold.
That's where our cliff is, though. Is somewhere in that range.
Somebody at home run the poker tracker numbers, or hold them. What the thing called?
Hold them in.
Poker stove.
Poker stove.
Run some poker stove numbers. Let us know if ace-5 is a call.
Is that not your favorite? Like, that's my favorite of all time poker, especially free poker software. Poker Stove has been so phenomenally helpful in my poker game. It's like my favorite thing ever. They need to make a phone app if they don't already. I need one badly.
Spot with ace-6.
And if I saw
take the shirt, just wait.
I kind of thought Andy was kind of strong in that spot too, because he was ordering the drink, hanging out. He looked happy, so he would have gotten me there.
I do that versus regs a lot. I'll 3-bet, and then I'll just sit there and sip my drink. And I'll be like, don't I look strong right now, guys? You know I look strong when I'm sipping this drink, right? Totally comfortable right now. I've heard that the Borgata chips have magnets in them, and the table does too, so that if you stick off a huge 60 high stack, they cannot fall over.
I haven't played cashier, so I can't confirm or deny.
Wouldn't that be? I think
the chips are sticky. I don't know if they have magnets in them, but they're made out of some funny rubber.
Well, they said that's why you can't shuffle the chips perfectly, the cash chips, because of the magnetism in them.
Interesting.
I thought that was interesting.
I thought it was because they were some funny plastic rubber stuff.
Because
if you feel them, they're different.
They're high gloss. They are.
Yeah, they're different. I don't know what. Maybe they got magnets. I don't know.
Jeremy goes all in.
I do know I was playing cash the other day, and the edge of the table like slopes down, you know, and so my chips fell in my lap one time.
I believe Jeremy just moved in there because he didn't put any chips in, and everyone folded, and he got the pot. Yeah, he just moved in with ace-jack.
They have good cash games here on the weekends, I hear. So if you guys want to play some cash games in Atlantic City, come to Borgata.
I've heard the same.
Jeremy goes all in.
Ace and a jack. Just give him a hand every time. A hand or some raising chips.
Yep. Over to Mike in the big blind.
I'm kind of shocked that Matt is letting him get away with this.
Matt's just chilling at this point. He seems to want no trouble from Andy.
Matt Hagen, not Matt Salzberg. He can't do too much.
Yeah.
But Hagen is letting him. You can't let the guy... You need to raise some pots. What I would do if I was Matt, if I was going to elect to not really go after Jeremy, is I would... Not Jeremy. If I was not going to go after Andy, I would...
Guys, I think Jeremy might have shoved here because Andy hasn't folded yet. There it is.
Well, this is going to be a... Oh, wow, he has a lot of chips now.
Yeah. He has 18-ish.
Wow.
That is pretty close. I think Andy will probably call.
I think he's
and
calling.
He did call.
There it is.
Ace-jack's too good.
Too good, and Andy's been so active. Jeremy clearly knows what he's doing, so...
Yeah, if you've been very active, you should have to call people much lighter.
Yeah.
Because they're going to expect you to fold way more often.
Yeah. Queen 8-3 flop is no help to ace-jack.
Give us a king.
So Jeremy's still in the lead.
Need a king out there for fun.
Another 8 does create some additional outs. You can now catch a queen, ace, or jack to win this pot. Otherwise, Jeremy doubles up. The river is a 4. That is not going to do it. Jeremy is doubling up to around $5.5 million, I believe.
It's a big double up.
If Hagen hasn't messed with them yet, then I think that Jeremy should definitely pick up some of that now that he has some chips to do so.
Right.
We already know that Jeremy's type, you know? I think we could see some fireworks here.
We could, or we could just see Andy raise every hand and win every hand.
Let's hope.
I hope not, though.
Yeah,
let's see some fireworks.
Yeah, let's see some fun.
We really haven't seen Andy get 3-bet too much, so we don't even know how he would even proceed. I imagine he would probably fold initially, but at some point he would certainly have to go after it.
Yeah, because he's usually the 3-better.
Matt's going to move his stack in. It's 10 blinds with a pair of 6s.
Those 6s, we've seen 6s a bunch. Oh man, I think James has said, how much is it?
Yeah, James is still in this hand.
Pretty standard shove with any pair in that situation. Or a whole lot of hands, really. When you're down to 10 big blinds, the next guy has 20 big blinds, and everybody else has a lot, you have to shove very, very wide. Like suited connectors, all sorts of stuff. I don't really know what James would be thinking about and actually have a legitimate think with. What do you guys think?
Maybe ace-jack or like pretty much like 6s or 7s. Obviously 6s are not very likely, but
I think ace-jack's an easy call.
What about like 5s?
I think 5s are probably a fold.
Maybe that's what he's thinking. I'm just trying to think what the middle of the way-ish hands that he could be thinking about would be.
Wow, ace-9. Ace-10 I think I would probably call as well, but I don't think ace-9.
I don't call ace-9.
I don't think it's a call
Salzberg
either.
is going to need to hold up.
Especially not with Andy behind me.
No. Or, I mean, 2 guys behind you.
I'm not so worried about Mike.
No, but it's still a guy.
Yeah.
And that guy's going to get a hand 5% of the time or something.
I'm very surprised that James calls the shove but wouldn't peel a few $100,000 more. And he has hit a 9, so Salzberg needs a 6 and only a 6 to catch up here. I'm a little surprised he didn't peel the ace-10 before.
Yeah, this is actually shocking to me because this is a much worse situation.
Now the turn is a queen, and like we mentioned, Matt Salzberg, he's one of the black 6s on the river. He's going to be our 6th place finisher. And that upside-down 6 is not going to do it. Matt Salzberg going to collect $147,671 for his efforts, his 2nd WPT final table of this season.
I guess he did hit a 3-outer right off the bat, but it's how it goes sometimes.
Yep.
Salzberg had like 28 blinds in that 5s hand? Is that what
23, 24.
I wonder, if Salzberg is a 3-bet in that spot versus Huang, if you're Huang, what do you still go with in that spot?
If he crammed on me?
No, if he 3-bet.
No, I would have shoved.
I would shove with 5s there and 20.
That are better hands that dominate you?
I do if it's potentially authentic. If
3-bet
you do that kind of
because
thing.
Of the image?
Yeah, I mean, no, you would never 3-bet fold. But like, what?
I'm just curious what your thought process is there.
Basically, if I'm Salzburg and I believe my opponent will interpret a smaller 3-bet as strong and that gets him to fold more, then I like the small 3-bet. And if I'm in the other guy's shoes and I see that small 3-bet from Salzburg and he hasn't done anything like that before, I am legitimately freaked out. But if I've seen him play a mid-20-ish big blind stack and 3-bet, instead of shoving in those situations before, then I kind of treat his 3-bet like a shove.
Like anything else,
Yeah.
right? But because, given that Salzburg hasn't done that, and it would be like the first time he's 3-bet, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Coming from a guy that we're looking at as a tight player.
Then you're right that a 3-bet is better than a shove because I think it causes your opponent to fold more quality hands.
That beat you, like.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Maybe.
I don't think I'd do it against Andy because Andy might be the kind of guy who just randomly bluffs you. Andy might randomly do something crazy.
Well, what could he do that's crazy? All I could do is shove.
Yeah, he could like shove with 9-8 suited, or he could flat call with all sorts of stuff, and then you see a flop, and that's not really what you want at all, of course. So against someone like Andy who may take a weird line, I mean, I don't know if he will take a weird line or not, but if I had to pick a guy that may take a weird line, it's probably him. So against him, I would just try to do the thing that's easiest, going to be plus EV, and be done with it.
Okay.
Well, here we see Matt open to 450 from the small blind with a 3-7 offsuit, and James calls with Queen 9 in the big blind, and the Jack 10-6 rainbow flop is a lot better for James than it is for Matt, so he calls that 500,000 chip bet.
It's always important to think about all the other lines, though, because quite often you can find a line that's much better than what's conventional or standard.
James hits the second nuts on the turn.
It's a good
Interesting
card.
to see if Matt decides to barrel that card. I feel like probably not, but potentially.
Matt opened the small blind?
Yes.
See, like I would fold 7-3 from the small blind.
I just fold 7-3 there.
Yeah, I don't really see any purpose in this. Even if you think James is tight, James isn't like ridiculous or anything.
And he has still been in like some pots.
Yeah, he's not a super net.
No.
I think this is one of those spots where betting the king looks better than it actually is, because your opponent's range is going to be a bunch of stuff like, 8-9, 10-9, Jack 10, Queen Jack, Queen 10, Queen Jack, just like a bunch of hands that are connected enough on this board that the king doesn't scare them. And like you're in the small blind, so like the likelihood that you have a king isn't that high.
At this point, James has a 10 or better almost every time.
Yeah.
Or he has some draw.
You get him to fold a 6, that's for sure.
Right.
But that's about it.
Yeah, he's not folding a 10. I'd be pretty shocked if he folded a 10.
I guess you could have like 10-7s and 10-8s.
He
and maybe
really-
some of them heroes.
He really, really needs to only call here. Oh, no, he's going to do it. This is a giant, giant error, I think.
Yeah, I don't like this raise.
Because your opponent's drawing dead, and if you call and your opponent bets the river, you can easily get all in. There's no point in raising here because it looks really strong, and it's going to make it relatively tough for your opponent to bluff. I think he just basically min-raised, right? So it was 800, he made it $1 million?
He made it 2.2.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, 1.2 more.
No, this is not a good spot to fast play given the stack sizes.
And you have a diamond blocker, just in case. I'm not really that worried about diamonds in his spot, though, blind versus blind.
No, I mean, you're not worried about any river here.
Yeah, you're really just not.
If they put a 10 up there on the river, and the guy bets, you're still shoving if you call the turn.
Oh, yeah.
There's no bad river.
Matt, apparently, looking to Hollywood here a little bit.
I guess if they put up the ace of diamonds, and your opponent bets, you could call.
Yeah, ace
But
diamonds.
that's it.
Crappy.
I mean, there's really no other. I guess maybe the 9's also equally bad. 9 of diamonds. Or you have the 9 of diamonds. So
Yeah.
there's one bad river card. And it's not bad. You still win. That card probably induces bluffs. If anything, it's actually a good river card. So, does Matt ever spaz out here?
Zero equity spaz out.
That would be epic.
I just can't.
Well, he's Hollywooding or considering a spaz. One of those two.
If he's Hollywooding, there's no point in taking this long.
Yeah, I don't know why we're still here.
So you're thinking we're going for a spaz?
There we go.
Okay.
Take it down.
If you're going to fold, I don't care. If I get a guy who takes forever at every hand, I don't care. I hope somebody's going to call the clock on him eventually, but I don't really care that much.
I think it's helpful if you can affect your opponents into making mistakes in play.
Yeah, but if you play well and you expect to have a positive expectation, you should probably want to play as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's so dumb to stall live these days. It's like, whatever, the dude's just going to go back to looking at Twitter.
If you're the worst player at the table, though, maybe you should.
I guess.
Interesting.
You're not going to get any better like that.
Well, yeah, you're not going to get any better, but like right here, if I was the worst player at this final table, I would not be opposed to taking forever. Because then everybody has to play 20 big blind poker.
Yeah.
And then what kind of edge are they going to have in that?
That's a fair assessment.
Well, Andy, it's open first to act here with the 9-8 of clubs. It's over to Mike in the big blind, I believe, yes.
Yeah, if you're the worst player, you always want to be slow, but please don't do that. Talk to all the listeners out there.
This year was actually a very long bubble, was it not? One of the longest.
Oh my
God.
God. It took 2 hours. I was there, and it was so miserable. The very first hand of the hand for hand, Matt Salzberg opened with ace-9. Joe Sterock called on the button with pocket sixes. A guy shoves 12 big blinds in the big blind. Matt Salzberg folds. Joe Sterock tanks for forever and folds sixes. And I was so tilted. And then from there, he ended up like winning every hand on the bubble and grew a giant stack. I made top pair twice and lost both of them and lost half my stack. It was terrible.
And we're going to get the Mike lead again here. It went Andy raises, Mike calls in the big blind with 6-10 of diamonds, and he's leading out with a draw again in a spot where, I mean, he can just like never have a value hand.
I would be interested to see what happens when he ever finally gets a value hand. But
if he ever made top pair, we'd have an idea of how he plays it.
It's kind of tough to make top pair with 10 high and jack high and 6 high and 7 high.
Well, it's just as easy to make top pair with those hands as any high card, but he doesn't, well, I guess not a 3 high or 4 high, but 10 high can make top pairs.
With the 9-8, do we call here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially knowing his tendency, right?
Looks like Andy's probably going to raise, but...
I don't know if that's necessary.
There are a lot of bad turns for you.
And he raises.
Like a 9. You don't think a 9 is, but there are a lot of not amazing turns for his hand. So I don't know if I hate raising. I mean, it's never bad to pick up this hand here if you think your opponent has a draw.
Versus kind of opponent, is he folding draws when you raise?
He's folded stuff so far. He's folded to raises a few times now. Like right here, this is effectively a draw. You don't want him in. Like if he knew he had this hand, he doesn't want him in here.
I mean,
I guess if he knew exactly what he has.
He's drawing pretty thin. He has pretty good equity.
Yeah,
but you probably still would want him in there.
Himself in trouble.
When he's going to get in trouble, you're right. As long as he keeps making gut shots and bets and then folds, he'll stay out of trouble. He'll just lose 4 big blinds at a time.
I'd love to see him switch it up and like check shove or like something a little different.
Well, what he's doing currently is not working.
315.
So whoever is telling Mike our advice, go make sure he gets this one.
We had a 3-point plan.
3-point plan. That will instantly fix Mike's 3 leaks that we picked out immediately.
Yep, James here makes it 315.
Man, Matt Hagen has been a super net. I don't understand.
He's been chilling on his big stack. I'm very surprised he hasn't been more active.
I mean, I don't think James is going to go way out of his way to try to abuse him, and Mike certainly isn't. So, I mean, anytime he can open, he probably should open.
He did he did open the 9-3-0, so...
I guess he did.
But I still agree with you. I feel like during that period in which it was awkward for everyone around the table, he could have 3-bet Andy more and opened a few more pots.
What Andy has done is anytime he's first to act and he has anything reasonable, he's raising.
Yeah.
And I think that's generally a pretty good plan when you have a big stack at a final table where guys are playing relatively tight. Looks like Mike may play a hand. Probably for the all-in, I imagine. It looks like he's pretty short at this point, right?
Yes, he is.
Maybe 1.8, 1.7 million or something?
Yeah, in that region. I tell you, he's certainly communicating a lot of uncertainty if he goes all in.
Yeah, so this is another, what we were talking about, one of our 3-point plans. This is one of the points that he looks pretty weak here. Hopefully he has ace and he's going to trap us all.
If he gives a speech before slamming in, and then he has aces.
We were told that he had the 3-2 of spades there.
Worth a little thought.
For real?
For real, that's what we were told.
You got the old 3 high tank.
Well, he was probably thinking about calling. Maybe he's had bad cards. I mean, he did play the 9-3 offsuit, so he tried, but
we don't know what he's folding, so it may just be the card dead.
He also played 7-3 offsuit from the small blind.
That's right.
So he's playing some hands. I don't know why he's picking the absolute worst hands to play, but he's picking the worst hands. So there it is. Mike's already all in. And I don't think Mike's going to sit here and blind off. He's going to try to win some hands.
And this is to an open as well from Anderson.
Oh, wow. So James probably has to call this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe he does.
Given how...
If it's 1-2, then Mike only has about 8.5 blinds. Suited king is going to call.
Given how aggressively Mike has been shoving, I think you pretty much have to call with anything you're opening with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Let's see if we can get a look at Mike's hand there. Ace spades face card. King 7 suited versus ace face card.
Well, if there's an ace out there, it's pretty much done.
And it's 10-8-7. It's ace 10. So that's a good flop for the ace 10.
Not so bad for the 7. Well, now that's kind of bad for the 7.
Mike has done it. He's going to double up.
And he is happy about it.
He is very happy about it. He's, as he should be. It's a big moment when you're here fighting some bar advice.
His one huge leak is calling out of the blind and then betting.
Playing bad hands out of
position. That is what he has done that has cost him pretty much all the chips he's lost in this tournament so far. If he had been playing tight out of the blinds, he'd probably have more chips at this point, I imagine.
He would have to, right?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to. Well, I don't know, because he did win the one big hand with ace 9 suited, so. But he would have won a small blind there.
He would have gone in pre-flop and had the same result, right?
No, because he got 2 bets out of the guy.
You're right. It was a spot where his opponent didn't.
Way to put it.
You're being gentle.
Ambitious. That's a better word. You and your words, working on a book.
I've been working on that book. I have.
Ever since I've known you, you've been working on this book.
Pretty much true, but this time I'm actually writing it.
Oh.
I started the week before I left, so I started accumulating words. And I actually did an interview for it this morning. And you know the poker reporter Diamond Flush, who has given us a number of great articles from Subject Poker and about the Howard Lederer files and about other goings-on in the industry?
I do. I don't know who it is, but
that's
I do.
Right. She's protective of her identity, but not to a paranoid degree. And she was totally fine meeting today and giving me an interview and letting me ask about her methods and what she thought about some of the things that she had discovered over time. So that was very enlightening, and I appreciate her giving me time today. So a little shout out to Diamond Flush and her very quality reporting work over the last couple of years. Here we have Andy opening the 300 with 300? Is it still 75, 150 for a little bit perhaps? May have not changed over right on the break.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
And there we had Matt finally taking advantage of the dynamic and 3-betting light with a king 3 suited, and that was something.
It's the first time because you're not going to get played back out. In general.
Yeah.
Of course, it's all the stuff is in general.
The level wars always start post first time, right? Second time onward, it's like, well, does he do it the second time?
We are playing 100, 200, it appears.
Yeah.
$400,000? But
so I'm guessing it was just a misclick raise size. Maybe it made it 4 and it listed it as 3.
With a 25K ante, I believe?
That would sound right.
And that raise from Wang was that spot that I was talking about that he kept opening into Anderson's big blind.
Mike, there we go.
Slams it in over the raise.
All right, Mike.
And Jeremy would be folding this one.
Okay.
For sure.
Like
hands like King 10, you certainly can't call off for 20 big blinds here when you put in a min raise.
Hell no.
Especially, I mean, even though Mike has shoved a lot, they've all been with hands that have King 10 in bad shape, for the most part.
And when in his more desperate shoves, he had like 12 bigs, not like 20.
Right. So this is like a no-brainer fold here.
And because we know he's inclined to call a lot on the stack size.
It's always important to think about the math for everyone at home, because just a second ago we saw that James had the King 7, we're like, oh, that's an easy call. And then here we're saying King 10, it's an easy fold. And it just depends on how deep the stacks are, right? Yep. And what kind of odds you're getting.
I'm surprised Jeremy has thought this long.
You know, he has seen Mike shove a lot. And I may be thinking the same thing, but King 10 just does poorly against any reasonable shoving range. I mean, you have to think your opponent's shoving like almost everything in order to call here. And of course he's not shoving almost everything.
Jeremy folds, Mike wins the hand.
Well, Jeremy does eventually fold.
Maybe he wanted to sit there for a minute, make his opponent sweat it a little bit, so maybe he's not going to shove by 7 o'clock. I don't know why they're not showing the Royal Flush Girl bar so much today. We need to get some shots of that.
That's looking popular today, too.
It was. It was booming. Well, apparently you can't really see the Royal Flush Girls there because there's so many guys.
Normally we have a better ratio
They're
going there, but at the untelevised events, it's 2 Royal Flush Girls. So it brings it down a little.
It's like a club. 18 guys and 2 girls.
That's why I don't go to clubs.
Yep. I haven't been to a club in about 6 years.
Sick life.
Yeah.
I occasionally have to go for work or like social obligation purposes, and I'm just contemplating suicide every second I'm there.
That was the last time I was there for work obligation.
Yeah, exactly.
For WPT, actually.
Exactly.
Was
it here at the Borgata a few months ago?
last time. That was the last time I was in a club.
That was the last time, yeah.
And before then, it was a good 2 years, probably.
I don't think I'd mind if they were paying me to go.
That would make it okay.
That'd be okay. I could probably handle that. Wow, here we go again.
And now
Andy's going after it.
Yeah. Over to James. I think he's made it 4 1/4.
I don't think there's any point in putting in that extra quarter here.
I can swear the blinds look like 75 150, and yet.
Well, it's making it
425.
He's making it 425. It's certainly not. It does look like 3
It looks
chips, though,
like
doesn't it?
325. That's kind of what I'm saying. Is it looks like the blinds are 75 150, and it looks like a few of these raises have been a 3 and not a 4. But then
I think all the chips look shorter in general for some reason on the screen.
they colored up.
I think Mike flatted here.
Wow, James has it.
Yeah, James really has it, and this could get interesting.
Wow, Mike just calls.
Mike calls,
Sick
and
just
Jeremy's
called.
got something in the big blind, and yeah, what is that just called?
This is going to be like the most amazing sick call whenever it comes like 9-4-2 and he check folds. If you call stuff like ace queen here, you need to be prepared to usually go to a turn.
This is such a good spot for Jeremy to attempt something pre-flop, and unfortunately, if he does that, he's going to run straight into kings. But if he goes for it, I will say I really like the spot.
I don't squeeze play people. It never works for me.
I think the squeeze play is still perfectly viable, especially when you have somebody like Mike in between and an opener who has shown no tendency to 4-bet light.
It is a good spot.
Yeah.
But because it's such a good spot, I would assume it should never work. I usually level myself into not making plays in this situation for that. This is such an obvious spot to do this. So therefore, it can never work.
You let go of all the odd spots?
Yes.
Yeah.
I really do. I go for the, pretty good ones. The marginal ones. It looks like he's...
Maybe it is 425.
Maybe what is 425?
The raise.
Says so.
It is, in fact, 425. Okay.
I don't know why you
John
guys
and
are
I
not
got
believing.
so tricked.
What do you mean we got tricked?
You said you thought it was 325 too.
No, I didn't.
You said it looked like it.
I said the blinds look like it.
All right, fine.
I don't know what we're talking about.
And Jeremy's all in.
Jeremy is going to be out of here, unfortunately.
For 4 points.
Wow, that's a nice big shove, too.
And James, here's another mistake. James snap shoved.
Yeah, snap.
All the pre-flop action happened in like half a second.
Snap shoving is a very, very bad play here.
Especially against Mike. What are the hands? Is it
Mike
ace-10
is
suited versus kings?
Mike is going to feel like a super genius here.
I think it's ace-10 suited.
Mike saved his stack, and look, he's high-fiving Andy over there.
Ace-10 offsuit.
Oh man.
Well, not quite game over. There are 2 backdoor draws.
Those back doors make it painful.
I will say before this hand is over, I like Jeremy shove.
Yeah, me too.
And now this hand is over.
Jeremy got himself, and he gave himself a nice shot to win a pot, but unfortunately it did not work out.
And Jeremy is going to be our 5th place finisher for $182,514.
Some guys fold kings sometimes for the fun of it. I was playing in this.
You're getting a little non-zero here.
I was playing in the 10K bounty shootout at the PCA, and Chao Zhang. Somebody raised, Chao Zhang 3-bets like half his stack, the guy shoves. Chao Zhang tanks for forever and folds kings.
What?
And then the other guy showed his aces.
Stop.
He's like, I just knew he had it. In a 10K bounty tournament. Not bounty, 10K super turbo tournament.
That
or whatever
reminds
it was.
me of
What in the hell?
Barnhart. Sam Barnhart. Remember that last year?
No.
You don't remember Sam Barnhart, the guy who won last year's national championship, 2011?
He went deep in the main.
And then he
correct?
also went deep in the main and folded kings pre-flop to like a, I don't know if it was I think it might have been a 4-bet, but
We're at the World Poker Tour here. We don't talk about that. I don't even know what you're talking about right now.
I know it probably got bleeped out.
What did the other guy have?
Aces.
Oh.
Yeah, see? Sick folds.
He's like, I'm going to show you this time. I'm folding Kangs. And he folds them face up, and the guy's like, you want to
It's a
see
good impression, by the way.
I know.
Yeah.
Kangs. I love him. He's my favorite.
I know Hoyt Corkins folded kings once at the LAPC, and it was correct.
Kessler folded aces once.
Well,
3.
go figure.
Who did?
Kessler.
Was it a
Because
bubble situation?
it was for a min cash bubble situation, but it was for the sake of making history for the most amount of cashes in whatever it was, whatever series or
Well, that's a
circuit
piece
it
of
was.
history that will be prominent in many people's minds, no doubt. Can understand why he would give it away there.
That's right. Lock it up, right?
We have some action going on
Yes,
over
we
here.
do.
That's a big hand.
This is going to be a very big hand.
Well, Matt finally decides to make some aggressive action, and he happens to have the nuts. So this is good, seeing how he's been kind of getting beat up lately. And it doesn't work, unfortunately. See, a lot of people, Eric, he was up there, and he looked it up, and I have one less cash than Alan Kessler.
And how many more wins?
More.
Yeah.
But yeah, they asked me. Alan asked me how many caches I had. I'm like, I have no clue.
Right.
Like maybe 10, but I think it was like 16
Like,
or something.
what? I have it tattooed on my arm. Yeah.
He has these little notches. He chainsaws them into his arm.
Action's on Mike, and he's going to open here.
Mike raises to 475.
Yeah, stuff like that I don't even think about and don't even worry about.
Matt folds.
Like past tournaments.
No, they're over.
Yeah. You don't live in the past. You got to go forward and try to always get better.
This isn't the NFL. What the hell are we talking about with record books? Like, every now and then, I will hear other players discuss about, like, being highest up on the all-time cash list or having the most tournament wins or anything, and I'm like, who do you think is looking these things up?
Wow.
Oh, wow.
We have the guy with the most MTT scores on full tilt playing with us right now.
That's
so.
right.
That is
2010.
Okay.
He's probably like the third or fourth biggest winner on full tilt.
I mean,
Assuming he didn't lose it all back.
have you looked up his stats or something?
No, but I mean, if
Okay.
he was the biggest winner in 2010, that was a big year for full tilt.
Big year for full tilt.
And there weren't very many other big years.
Oh,
so it's
man.
probably- he could like literally be the biggest winner, or one of the biggest winners. Especially if he'd been played in like 2009 and 2008 and had winning years.
What happened in this hand?
Could have been.
It went Mike opened and James shoved.
Wait, what?
Wait.
Look at the button and the blinds.
James opened.
No. Mike opened and James shoved.
Oh, James from the big blind?
Yeah.
Okay, James from the big blind.
Mike folds it. Nice to...
We're only four-handed now. We forgot.
I know.
We lost Jeremy. We didn't have that this time.
Not this
No.
time.
It always happens.
Matt folds, Jim folds.
Always, except for today.
I'm happy for this guy, Mike, though. He seems like he's happy to
He's
be
having
here.
a ball here.
He's real happy. Chipping up on the payouts.
Yeah, if he busts right now, he gets $222,000.
Came in the short stack, right?
It's like 80 buy-ins or something. That's a lot of
Or
buy-ins.
he came in tied for the short stack with Salzburg.
He's up 75K, right, in buy-ins. So from the 6th place payout,
Yeah.
feeling pretty good.
It's pretty big payouts for a $3,500 tournament.
We're going to see a flop.
These Borgata ones always get really good turnouts.
Yeah. Now, there's a spot we think he should be shoving, and he just called.
Oh, yes. You should definitely shove here.
I think he hit top pair, though.
That's probably a good flop.
King 7-6 is the top pair.
You got to check call.
Don't raise.
He's actually shown that he likes to check call, but then
Yeah.
he leads.
Yeah.
Like that he check called the turn with the ace-9 earlier and then led the river. 2 pair now? Wow.
Yes, it is.
Well, we were curious to see what he did if he actually did end up flopping a pair.
Good check.
Both players check. River is an 8.
That's an unfortunate
Mike
check for him.
will bet. Andy will fold.
Yeah, this is a pretty easy give-up spot for Andy, I think.
That's 675.
Wow, is he gonna? I was like, don't get creative. That would have been amazing. And Mike actually saved his tournament on that hand.
Whole tournament.
Whole tournament.
Should be
because
busto.
I think
He raises to 400,000.
most of us would be busted on that hand.
I
Unless we got real fancy and elected to call.
actually, if we want to get very technical, I think it was a bad flat. You know,
Yeah.
I think you got to shove. I know he saved a stack and he's still here, but I think it was a mistake.
You got an extra $40,000 for that little mistake there. It's not a problem. Poker's a funny game sometimes.
Being rewarded for your mistakes directly.
Yeah, they like took $40,000 and handed it to him.
Yeah. Play that hand incorrectly.
$5 a game, all day.
I'll play some backgammon. Oh, coming at you.
I've never played backgammon. Never played
Oh, it's amazing.
a single game.
I don't know how to play.
Yeah,
It's very good.
too many games.
Very good strategy game. Very similar to poker.
I just like going all in and trying to win.
Can't do that in backgammon.
Ugh,
Yeah.
it's like limit hold'em.
Well, you can't. I mean, you can wager like 64 times a bet.
So it's like limit hold'em, only 64 times.
Yeah.
Oh,
Spread limit.
it's cap limit. Cap game.
Re-raise, re-raise, re-raise.
James here has gone to 425, and Mike apparently has a decision to make.
Mike's going after it. I think if he takes the call option out of his game, he'll be doing pretty good. But it seems like he likes calling, unfortunately.
Kind of his move, and this is one of his worst ones yet.
Yeah, this is a great shove spot again.
Mm-hmm.
Especially against James, because James isn't the blast-off type.
No.
Like, I wouldn't mind a flat against someone like Andy, who's going to go kind of nuts sometimes, even though he didn't. We saw Andy just show amazing discipline on that last hand of just, guy is the king, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
So I think Andy plays really good.
I think he's demonstrated that all final table.
Is that a 3 on board? Oh, no, 5. Close.
5.
Almost.
So Mike's about to lose 2 big blinds here, I think.
Yep.
I'm assuming that if James checked this board to him, James has a pair. Like, I think James probably just has, like, Jack-10 here a whole bunch.
I was going to agree with you on that one. Probably mid-pair.
Oh, a tiny bet. What in the world is that? It's like, I wonder what he's trying to accomplish with this. Because
I want to win this hand, but I don't want to risk very much.
I think if you're going to bet here, you need to bet something that makes him think we're putting our money in.
Yeah.
Because if you bet the flop for, say, I don't know, 550, and then you bet like 675 on the turn, it looks like you're going with it. And if you're going with it, Jack-10's no good.
Yeah. But I mean...
But this says...
But Mike's not thinking about how to bluff off Jack-10. He's just like, maybe I'm good. Maybe my opponent has ace high. I don't want him to get another card. I'll just bet small. My hand's not very good, so I'll bet small.
I agree. I imagine he's going to be done with this hand. I don't think he's going to bluff it off.
Yeah, both players check. River is a 4.
It's a shame he didn't catch a 3. So now if you're James, do you ever value bet with Jack-10?
If I have Jack-10, I might bet like
330?
300K or something terrible.
Yeah, I would bet 300K or something like that also. I would definitely not bet big. It looks like he's betting big. Maybe he has... You think he ever has something like ace-jack?
No, he just bets it.
Yeah. So why would he ever bet so big here?
I don't think he did. It's only like 6. He bet like a third pot.
I think he bet $1 million, man. Yeah.
Whoa.
Half pot.
Oh, that's 600K, not 400K.
Yeah. That'd be sick if he got looked up. No, I don't think I would bet this large with any of my range, because this is one of these spots where...
How does he have a bluff, though?
This is one of these spots where Mike's range is so weak that he can't really call with anything if you're betting for value. Maybe as ace-10? I could see this. I guess I could see his bet with ace-10 because you get value out of worse 10s.
Still, I'm agreeing with
Jack decided to check top pair in the flop, and he's like, well, if this guy calls, he'll probably call bigger instead of smaller, so $1 million it is.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe this guy has second pair and he'll call this. Maybe, I don't know. That's my guess, is that he somehow had a top pair that he checked. Cause he's like,
Mike has shown us that he'll bet when he has, like the drawly type hands, and he checked when he actually made the hand versus Huang, right?
Yes, sorry, this could get a little interesting. Oh. Matt just calls the raise.
Interesting, just call.
Ooh, wow. We do not like this.
Yeah, especially given his short stack.
He's like the second shortest stack on the table. Or actually, he and Andy are about tied.
With 20 big blinds, is that right?
No. They're both, what I'm saying is he and Andy are tied, not Mike.
Okay.
They're both around 35-ish blinds, I think. Flop goes check, check, and I think Matt will probably get 2 barrels here.
I may actually check the turn here if I'm in Matt's shoes. And then bet the river. Bet the river pretty big.
Really? There's a fair few draws out there.
He doesn't have any
bet.
he would have had the draws.
Who?
I mean, are you saying that
No,
Mike?
I'm saying you
Mike
can
will
represent
call?
the draw.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's checking back with showdown value, clearly, on ace 10-6.
I'm sorry, I thought Mike was in this hand, not Andy. If Andy's in this hand, I'm going to bet it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And that right there goes to show you out how it depends on the player you're against. Because against one guy, I'd probably check. Against another guy, I'd definitely bet.
Flush missed. Straight draw is missed except for 7-8.
You know, I know we're kind of hating on him for calling with ace-7 out of position pre-flop, but as the table gets shorter, that kind of stuff becomes like a pure value.
And he is going to get value here. Andy snap calls him.
Ace
He's going to be disappointed.
Ace of clubs and 7 of spades.
It's a tough river. I don't know if I would call on that river, actually.
Be with losing that one.
Likes the big
You
one.
can see him rubbing his head. I can kind of see the attitude maybe starting to
Yeah.
shift with
first-
Andy a little bit too.
Yeah, first chip in the armor we've seen for Andy.
Yeah, showed a little bit of emotion there, dismay at the situation.
I wonder if he gets tilted. If he gets tilted, we may see an epic blow-up.
We may see that soon, if anything.
Because these guys who are super creative and super loose aggressive, they go bonkers whenever they get tilted. Whereas, like, you know, a tight guy, they may overvalue ace-jack or
Right.
something.
Raises
A loose guy will blast off a 9-3 offsuit for no reason.
jam fold.
He did actually double up James yesterday
The
with
6-3.
6-3 versus aces for like a 70 big blind pot.
Yeah, it was a surprisingly big shove pre-flop. It was like open, just jam 35 bigs, 6-3 or something.
He has to
James
fold
was like,
everything.
cool, I have aces.
Clubs, 9 of hearts.
That's a pretty big sweat though, even knowing you have aces, especially
Yeah.
when they have some crap hand like the 6-3.
Yeah, you're
You
just
guys
like, how
heard
do you
about-
not have jacks there?
You heard about the Kathy Liebert hand, right?
No.
Kathy Liebert and Alex Bulletin, or whatever his name is. Apparently, let me think. Raise 3-bet. Okay, so Alex Bulletin raises with 4-2 offsuit. Kathy
It's
happens
crazy.
to what?
It happens too often.
Yes, it does happen very well. Not too often. Happens the correct amount.
Yes, I'm saying, but crazy stuff in poker happens often enough that you can't just be like, oh my god, you know,
Right.
this game is so rigged. There's so many people who like a few weird or like improbable things happen to them and they start seeing monsters in the dark.
Like when Andy just lost with his queens to the ace-7. Like, oh my god, this guy calls with ace-7. Andy flops an ace, and I still lose. What's going on?
Yeah.
You know, you can't worry about stuff like that. Crazy things happen all the time in this game.
Well, James with ace-jack suited here on the button.
We gonna see a blast
I was
off?
going to say, if Andy jams, it's over, or at least he's getting called.
He's folding. Oh no, he's not. Usually when you see a guy pick his, you know, kind of do the big look, usually they're done, but maybe not. Okay, he is. If you're ever at a final table, I'd try to not let. Usually wants to try to steal all the little pots. Especially now that these guys all have some chips where they're not going to go broke immediately. Like Mike's not going to get out of line,
No.
and Matt hasn't really shown to get too out of line. Andy can get out of line, but he's probably not going to.
Andy is seeming a little bit deflated right now.
He does look deflated. He seems antsy.
You can get that with his. You can catch that, the physical stuff that he's doing. Seeming a little downtrodden.
I actually like the way James has been pretty stoic so far in this.
Mike here.
I was kind of surprised at the amount of young kids at Borgata that were to the spot.
There was some spots.
Yeah, normally you'd see a young kid, you think they must be pretty good.
Well, think about this, man. The young kids that are getting into the tournaments now didn't have the benefit of grinding years and years of online poker leading up to the live poker as you and I did.
So how do they have $3,500?
There's a lot of way to get $3,500. It's when you see the young kid in the 10K, you're like, how did this happen? But $3,500, like, guys can grind that up in cash games, guys can satellite, guys can have done well in a preliminary event, decide to take a shot at this. Guys can win a points leaderboard, something.
We have a limp.
We have a limp, and I think a raise. I like this limp. I like 8-9 offsuit. That's a limping hand. That's small.
Probably raise it.
Yeah, you can.
I raise everything. I don't.
Okay, that's right.
Now he's going to get super owned by the 10 high. I guess if he raised, he would have got really owned by the 10 high, so he's doing the right thing.
Maybe. He might have also just got called and gotten like an ace-deuce-3 flop and just won.
That is true.
Or a king-8-5 flop.
Oh, wow. Well, James has to fire, right?
Yeah, he definitely does.
Anytime you have
Plus
very
he has-
little value, and you have backdoor draws
Yeah,
particularly,
I was gonna
it's never
say.
bad to bet.
There's some turn cards that are awesome for him.
Yeah, if there,
Seven of clubs out there, and it gets real interesting.
any club, any 7, any 9, any 10, any jack, all those are cards he's probably going to bet again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of cards.
We have a check, bet, call. Let's go to the turn. And it's the 5 of diamonds.
That's not one of them.
And that will shut down the action. Check. And I would assume a check.
I would assume a check too, but James has shown that he can do some crazy stuff.
Yeah. This isn't crazy so much as it's just spewy. Like it's
Yeah, what could he do except for barrel?
I'm glad to see him check. I mean, I think check is right too.
Yeah.
But I didn't think check min raise with ace 2 is standard, and he did it, so.
Looks like Matt's going to value bet here, guys. Do you think this is a good value bet?
Not particularly.
I just think it's real tough to get called by worse. What exactly? I mean, even if your opponent calls with an 8, you're going to chop.
Ace,
so like,
ace high.
Ace high, really.
Ace high.
Specifically. I guess there's hearts missed 7-6.
We know checking will be good.
Yeah. Action with Andy. He's gone to 400. Ace 5.
And he kind of has a short stack now, but hasn't really slowed down that much.
Matt, I believe, just made the call. Kind of a loose call, but especially only like 20-something bigs deep.
Matt has shown that he likes to call.
He does like to call.
It's kind of interesting.
And it looks like we're going to have a three-way pot with Mike coming along.
Is his hand better or worse than, like, a bad 9 high? Better. It's a bad queen high.
Way ahead.
And the flop of Jack 4-3 rainbow with the spade is actually pretty good for Matt.
Very good for Matt.
Yeah.
What more does he want? He has the gut shot. No, backdoor. What am I saying? Yeah, gut shot and
Backdoor
flush draw.
spades and a texture that his opponents probably didn't hit. I think he's going to call here.
I would always call here.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I would always call because you don't want to raise and then have to fold to a shove. Also, if I was in Mike's shoes, I would have folded Queen 8 pre-flop.
Naturally.
Thoughts on that? Called by Mike.
Well, a deuce will make things very easy for Andy, as will an ace. Otherwise, he's usually going to end up losing his hand. 9 doesn't help him. He might barrel, but it seems unlikely on that card and on this texture. And against an opponent calling against 2 players.
If he thinks that Matt has one of the middle pair type hands a lot of the time, he may barrel.
Yeah,
Like
in which case he'll probably barrel down.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be too confident in that. I mean, I would assume Matt is going to call if he has a jack on the flop also. So if he's going to call with a jack and all the pairs, you should probably tend to give up.
I usually give up in Andy's situation. You guys normally blast off here or give up?
I don't blast off.
Okay.
I give up a lot.
Andy's a blaster.
He said all of it.
Wow.
So he's a blaster. Epic meltdown, trying to.
Yeah.
Trying to epic meltdown. It's like a third of his range.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I also think, you know what though? If Matt had 7s, he'd probably just 3-bet Andy. So maybe he just never has a pair there. I don't know. What the hell is he supposed to have?
a jack. Jack
Yeah.
10. Jack
I'm not
10,
very
Jack
good
9.
at playing what did my opponent flat with 22 bigs.
I would expect to see a lot of Jack 10, Jack 9.
Yeah. That's
And
why
pairs.
I would not blast off there.
Yeah, me neither.
He got away with it, but I didn't like it. Really, the more I think about it, the more I don't like it on that turn, because it just provides incentive to call. You're like, oh, 9 diamonds, adds a flush draw, queen 10 and 8-10 are now straight draws. I call. Screw it, I got 7s.
Like a card that provided no more outs would be, or very, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
no draws come, it's
Right.
a totally dry card. That could be a little safer.
Maybe he was betting for value, so he didn't have to
He was betting for
get
value.
outdrawn.
Yeah.
He knew he had the best hand. Andy's opening up a bit, it seems. He may attempt to blast off further.
Fascinated to see if James has a blast off in him.
I
think he might have
think
it.
he's got a little bit of a 3-bet.
I think, well, no, this would be a 4-bet, remember.
What?
Yep.
There it is. There's the 4-bet.
Who 3-bet?
Wang clicked.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Andy did his small re-raise, and finally, James said he'd had enough. What I'm concerned with is he 4-bet so small that Andy might just
he's
go
gonna
for it.
He's gonna fold.
And he might just go for it. It's the kind of guy he is.
I mean, I think he kind of has to fold here.
I think you have to fold considering James has not done this, and he's shown down a lot of quality hands. And you haven't, like, the one time James made a move, we know about it, and Andy might know about it from before, but, like...
He did it.
He said all in.
What a ledge.
On the animal.
What a ledge.
At the end, you know, he tries to fight back a little bit and just gets it right in his eyeball.
You have to know who the guy you're fighting and what they're capable of.
Well, there's only a couple people to battle with here, so. And as you were saying, if he wants to take over that table captain, then he's going to have to start pushing Wang around at some point and putting him into some spots where Wang is not going to be able to.
I think
grab
now
it away.
I would not hate flatting Andy a lot because
if you're Matt,
if I'm anyone,
yeah,
because he's in blast off mode.
Yeah, he is.
If a guy, he's been all in 2 times in 2 hands.
Yeah,
don't induce
with garbage both
from
times.
him.
Yeah, so don't induce spaz if you have nothing.
And you can't call it with a spaz.
Right. So you want to call, get top pair, and then win all the money.
Pot control-ish.
Well, Andy's also going to win this. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Matt has clubs. Actually, this is going to get really interesting. Andy has queen 10 of diamonds. Matt has 4-10 of clubs.
Well, this is going to look like the nuts to Andy. If Matt likes to apply pressure.
Yeah. It's very hard to represent a strong hand.
It's like right here, this is a great spot to flat. I would not call.
I would. You mean you would not raise?
Yeah, I would not raise.
I would not raise.
I would not raise.
Position. You're repping like queen jack and nothing else.
Well, if you raise, you're going to get shoved on a lot of the time, which is not what you want. So this is a mandatory call.
I think Matt plays a little different from you and I.
Looks like he's going in for the raise.
That's why we were not the biggest winners on full tilt. It opens the door to get shoved on from a
guy who's done it the last 2 hands.
Right. If this guy was tight, then sure, go for the raise because he's going to call with queen 10 and then see what happens. But
and just being draw heavy like that, you're just allowing him to get in there.
He made a
fairly sizable raise. It was about a 375, and he made it 9.
Okay. And do we know how many chips Andy has?
Well, it's hard to say exactly considering the last 2 hands.
Looks like he has
but maybe like
5 behind?
7-ish to start this hand. You had what? 6.5 to start the hand?
Okay, so what do you do here at queen 10?
Not fold.
Do you shove or do you call? Or do you re-raise? I think given the last few hands, I would probably rip it in. For a lot. Is that crazy? Because I mean,
that's not crazy considering your image.
Yeah, I think his image is so ridiculous, such that if he shoves, he's going to get called by a jack a lot of the time. He's going to be called by some random queen a lot of the time.
He decided to go with the small 3-bet. I don't know how small that is, though. It kind of looks sizable.
I don't know. Is Haugen raising with the jack there to call?
Well, I don't think he's going to fold a jack if he gets shoved on. Oh, there's so many draws out there. So I think the shove protects you from draws, and I think it also gets value from worse.
And
all in. Call. Gigantic pot.
Wow,
this didn't need to happen. And Mike is so short. What is going on in this hand?
Mike's like, what? Look at Mike. He's so
loving life. Look at Mike.
He's like, I'm either on the right table or the wrong table.
Our boy Mike.
No, Haugen should have called the flop. For sure.
Yeah, a club and only a club is going to win this pot for Haugen. Otherwise, this is going to be a massive mistake. And it's an ace. That's not going to do it. Andy wins a huge pot.
Now he's going to be top.
Yeah, I'm trying to blast off those last 2 hands. Wanting this hand.
And in the end, it was Matt that blasted off.
Yeah, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
Let me ask you though, do you think that even if it hadn't worked out as such, where Wang was in those positions the past 2 hands, just given his previous dynamic that he may still have gotten in the situation, I think he probably still would have.
No, I think the flop is just like a pretty straightforward call. Like there's just really no value to raising there. You're representing one value hand, and there's a gajillion draws, and your opponent has been so blast off happy the last few hands. He's either going to blast his draws, which isn't good for you because you've got 10 high, or blast his value hands, which we just saw, which isn't good because you've got like 30-something% equity. So that's the first time Matt has played a hand where I just sheer out hate it.
And Wang didn't just shove there either, right? I don't know what bet we were on, right? But we were on a couple bets there.
3-bet to induce.
Right.
How it worked. Our short stack now. So essentially we have 2 guys with 10 bigs, and we have 2 guys with over 50. We got 70 and 55, 60-ish.
So this is a dream spot for Andy now. He should open 100% hands.
Oh, yeah. And he's going to make James' life miserable.
And James already looks like he's getting a little bit. He knows. He knows what's about to happen.
3-bet James every hand that he opens.
You had to give him to that guy. You couldn't just hit a club.
Look at Wang with the hands over the face the whole time.
Must have got his nose broken or something. Poor guy. His chips are going to fall over. He's not careful. Why did he not open this?
He must have had, I don't know, what? What is he not opening there? He must have had something.
Now when he's, not himself a blind, I think he could be opening every position.
Both Matt and Mike are not going to want to go broke before the other short stack. So because of that, Andy should open 100%. And then also, James is not going to want to play back at him. So this is...
It's like a perfect...
This is
He
the most
has a real hand here.
dream
this time.
spot.
So if Mike slams it, he's just going to get called.
Actually, I'm not too sure if this is a call if he shoves on you.
Mike only has 10 or 11.
With some of them. I remember there was one hand where...
sometimes I call, sometimes I fold. It's all kind of arbitrary.
There's this one hand where a little hold and folded queens on a bubble or something to keep the bubble alive. And he ended up like winning all the chips. I think like a short stack open jam from the small blind for like 6 big blinds. He just folds queens face up.
And then just continue to just
pummels them and got all the chips.
He's a gangster like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
looks like...
I mean, I don't think I would really keep the bubble around too hardcore here, but I would... I'm not looking to call a short stack shove unless I have 100% equity in the hand or near it.
Well, Haugen to shove. James is called.
Wow, shove, Andy, shove. This is a good spot for Andy to shove.
Yeah, it is.
Because he's going to...
anything.
Yeah. This might even be one of those ridiculous spots you would call with any two if you were confident that James is not trapping.
It's King Queen suited versus 2 other face cards.
It's not good when you have 2 face cards.
Are they matching?
I think they might be jacks. Queen jack.
Okay.
That's not good. Haugen in some trouble.
And this is sort of a disaster for Andy because he kind of had this locked up.
Well, 8-5 deuce on the flop. 2 diamonds, so that gives him a backdoor draw. Which is now live, so a jack or a diamond on the river, and Haugen doubles up. It's an 8, that's not going to do it. James Anderson knocks out Matt Haugen in 4th place. He's going to collect $222,336 for his efforts. Played a real good final table and just had one hand that we really did not like.
That no limit.
As long as Mike is there, I think that Andy's out for James' throat.
Yeah.
If I was James, I would be 3-betting Andy, hoping he 4-bets so I can 5-bet all in and make him fold. And that way
You're
I
inducing like 4 bets.
that way I get like an extra 2 or 3 million chips, and then I'm going to become Andy. We've seen James take some pretty aggressive lines, so he's certainly capable. I don't know if he's going to do it. I imagine he's probably going to wait around to see what happens to Mike. So I'd love to see fireworks, but I'm not so sure if we're going to get to see them.
Yeah, I'd love to see Huang put Anderson in a tough spot here with Mike still in. That's when it's going to get real fun.
James just shoves. He shoves and he wins.
100%.
Yeah. 3rd and 1st.
Wow.
Big jump.
A lot of pressure right now.
That's a big jump. So now what some people do is if Mike shoves, some people in Andy's spot would call and then hope that James calls and they would check it down. But I think that's kind of a fishy play. Because you're much better off trying to get all the chips going into heads up. In exchange for sometimes giving Mike some extra chips.
Yeah. You're not really that worried about Mike getting extra chips.
Yeah. If Mike gets extra chips, who cares? And even if he does get extra chips, he's going to have 8, 10 big blinds, or 20 big blinds then. I mean, that's fine.
If that.
What does he have right now? He has about a million? 1.1?
No, he has
No,
2.
he has more. Around 2-ish. A little less than 2. It's like 1.6 in yellow, plus the 100 he has out there.
Yellows are 100.
Oh, right.
So he has about 1.7 back.
1.8.
Look at those chips, they're falling. Do you see them?
Who, Andy's?
Leaning. Wait for it. Curious to see if he's going to let himself blind further down here, or if he's going to be taking some more marginal spots than we've seen him take in times past with getting it all in pre.
What did the other 2 guys have their chips? 14?
14 and 12-ish or something?
Wow. He should actually play pretty tight.
14-1
and just pray
and
the other 2 guys go nuts. If I was in Mike's seat, I may play a little bit tight here and just for like an orbit or 2 and see if these guys go bonkers. And if I see them playing back at each other like maniacs.
Well, in this case, Mike has shoved King 3, and James, I think, is called Ace King.
That's a lucky hand to get 3-handed.
Ace
Jack.
Okay.
So we got to give him some outs. Let's give Mike a double up.
Yeah, there's my answer. That's my question. King 3, he's all in, so.
Right, he's not waiting around.
No,
so
he's
good shove by him.
Yep, he said saw King high and went.
Flop of 8-4-4 is no help. 10 on the turn, and so Mike needs a king or a 3, and the ace is not going to do it. He is our 3rd place finisher for $265,000. This being his first WPT event, I'm sure he's thrilled with his result, and
50 is the bet.
James battling out for the $730,000 first prize. Second is going to walk home with $438,000. These guys are pretty close going into heads up. It was James' $16.5 million to Andy's $14.6 million. And if the blinds are the same, which I believe they are playing $100,000, $200,000.
See the river. River is a 4 of spades, 4 spades.
Andy with the top pair here is check called on the flop. And I imagine he'll be going for a value bet on this river. It's not a perfect run out, but I think in a heads-up pot, he's still probably just going to go for it, and that his knows his opponent usually bets the turn when he has a stronger hand. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
It looks like he's checked, and he's going to give his opponent one more chance to bet here. And I think he's going to snap this one, knowing the way he plays. Yep. Bang. And immediately, James mucks. So that pot alone will probably switch who is our chip leader. And he puts his hands over his face.
That muck.
You remember the Roland DeWolf hand from Germany or something?
Was it like a Jack High versus Jack High situation?
Queen High against Queen High. Or Queen High against Jack High or something, and Roland DeWolf turned over one card Queen High. And then the other guy, like, I think it was Tobias Rankenmeyer, you know? He, like, tanked, and then he's like, show your card or muck it. And then he, like, finally turned his other card, he turned it over and mucked it. And then the other guy showed, like, Jack High and won the pot because you have to show 2 cards to have a live hand or whatever. So, and I think he did it, I think he also folded the best hand in some WPT once, but it wasn't a big deal. I mean, it is a big deal, but it wasn't a huge deal. Makes a pair again, though. That's pretty
And now he has the diamond draw.
That's a good hand.
I mean, what more do you want?
Can't ask for more.
Gonna lead out here again. We're not sure what James is holding, but if it's...
I'm not sure I love a value bet here. I think I may prefer a check and then value bet the river. Because I don't think you can get 3 streets here.
I think I can the turn and then going for like a rando river bluff, which, you know, not too many people do anymore. Of Andy's caliber.
But James can have an ace. James doesn't always have the worst hand.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? It's like a lot of the hands that call are going to be a better king or an ace.
I mean, but you have to spend that money either way, right? You have to lose. You're going to a river, clearly.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to spend some money. So you can either bet or allow your opponent to check. And I feel like you bet, then you can sometimes get value from a worse hand, and sometimes you're going to get called by that hand that's better that you would have never folded to anyway, but then you have a larger pot and you still have the initiative on the river when you hit your diamond. I don't know. I feel like I usually bet. We're heads up. We have second pair. Let's do this.
What worse hands are you seeing calling on that turn?
Not many, but sometimes he has a flop 9, or he just has a worse king somehow. Yeah, pretty much that's about it. Like, I don't think there are many, but I still think that, like, James isn't going to bluff us all that often, and...
See, I don't think that's true.
Really? On ace king 9? Like, how many hands does he call flop with that he's bluffing turn?
I don't know, but we just saw him bluff last time. He's capable of bluffing.
He is capable.
It's not like he's a super nit or anything.
No.
Yeah, and I think if it goes checked on the turn, then Wayne could put out a bomb on the river too, you know?
There is that, yeah. You can't, well...
I don't know.
I don't know if you can bomb river and get called.
I would bet the equity of the 2 bets are probably pretty close.
Okay. There's a dynamic such that James couldn't go berserk because of the shorter stack. So I'm curious whether to see if Andy thinks, hey, I'm better post-flop, I'll just keep going to the flop with him, or if he continues the 3 bets.
In general, you don't want to be 3-betting too often out of position if the guy's going to call you. And I think that James probably isn't... Well, he was folding pre-flop earlier, but I don't think he's going to fold heads-up. Heads-up match where you're waiting like every hand for the dealer to shuffle. You know, it's like the 30-second wait.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is taking forever.
That doesn't agitate you at all, though.
No, I said it's funny. It's funny. It's interesting.
Yeah, looks like we're going to go to a flop here. Andy raises the button. James calls the big, and it's king 10 of diamonds for Andy versus the 5-6 offsuit of James. And the 8 jack 3 2 spade flop misses both of them. And it goes check bet fold for Andy.
Match.
It's fair.
So the way you fix that is don't play hands in the
Bottom pair and only bottom pair?
Yeah, bottom pair. That's all you get.
All you get is bottom
You're
pair?
guaranteed to have bottom pair every hand.
You just have to make decisions.
Yeah, you have to make decisions for your stack.
Oh, man.
The right decision the whole way through.
You couldn't pay me to play that tournament. Well, I believe that we have Andy 3-betting here. Yeah, he went tiny. It went, 500 to 950 with the 2-6 offsuit.
No, this is a little bit wild.
This is classic Andy Wing.
He's going to put in the 4-bet here, and then he's going to fold to a rip.
All right,
good call.
James going to the flop.
This is what he should have been doing all night. Taking a flop of whatever he has, and then trying to play well post flop. 3, 4, 5. Oh, no. That's
Crossed my mind, too. Ace Jack 9 does not connect for Andy, but it's the kind of texture we know he'll take a shot at. I feel like it's also the kind of texture that James is calling a lot on.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier when there are the 2 middle cards on board, even though there's an ace up here, which makes it a little bit dicier, but it's almost impossible for James to not have something.
Yeah.
Unless he has a small pair.
Small pair, that's it, or 6, 7 suited.
If he does not have a small pair, he has a gut shot.
Call.
So he takes a turn.
And
3 of clubs.
And this is where I'm interested to see if Andy's going to give up or if he's going to play like he has aces.
Let's go. Looks like
he has aces.
Looks like Andy's our kind of guy.
Yeah. Wow.
And again, he moves very quick.
Ooh.
Yep, there it is, right in the middle. For about what, 1.8, 1.85 or something?
He is not scared to put the chips in.
1.95, I think.
So knowing that he puts money in often whenever he 3-bets, I would be really prone to take flops in position.
Yeah.
Because if you get a pair, top pair, you can call down and probably win a lot of money. Sometimes sometimes Andy's going to have top pair and he's going to win a lot of chips, but more often than not, he's probably going to blast off to you.
Andy.
So what do we do if we're in James' seat with 9-8?
Let it go.
Wow.
All right, just fold when I have 9-8.
Why?
Why? Because I don't...
Actually, people aren't going to figure it out because they haven't seen Showdown.
Yeah.
I was going to say, with all due respect, it doesn't seem as though anyone has been able to adjust to Andy's. No one's really done anything to exploit that at this final table.
If James had been calling down more earlier in the tournament, he would have saw like the 5-4 offsuit or something.
Right.
Then he would have significantly... a much better game plan going into heads up. But now he doesn't know if he's only doing it with premium hands or king 5 suited hands or what. Turns out he's doing it with everything.
I still feel like here's my thing, I guess, is that he's going to get a lot of opportunities to 3-bet James here. So can't we wait for at least a better hand than 6-2-0? You're going to get so many opportunities to 3-bet this guy. Like, you can't wait for, I don't know, a 9-5-0. Like,
They're all pretty bad.
They're all pretty bad, but at least some of them can make top pair.
And then even the third hand, if a club comes, he's out of the tournament.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, actually, I really kind of like that hand, the way he adjusted. But you're right that one was fortunate.
It could have been the other way, completely the other way. Or Matt could have had a better queen.
Yeah.
So those 3 hands, just amazing things happened for him, where he got away with everything.
In succession, too.
Right, that was amazing.
So fast. It was like 4 to 14 in an orbit.
So does he call out of position here with the 5-3 suited? Is that what just happened?
Yeah, he called that to him in. I don't mind that one so much.
Yeah.
I like it better than the 6-2 offsuit 3-bet. I would rather hear it. I would 3-bet the 3-5 spades. That's a 3-betting hand. Stuff can happen with that.
I agree with that.
Look at this. You've got pairs. You've got flush draws.
You knew.
That's a hand that can connect a little bit. 6-2 offsuit. No. 6-2 offsuit still has a pair here, but come on.
You have a better pair of 5-3.
Yeah.
So is he about to get check shoved on?
I was wondering that. I was like, man, Andy might just decide, screw this guy.
Anytime you have a super premium draw like this, where you have pair, flush draw.
But I think he probably won't because he still beats just naked diamonds, and if his opponent has a king, he probably just won't fold to him. So I think he just calls here.
I don't mind a shove, man. I don't know exactly the stacks.
I
what do we
don't
think he
like
has?
the shove here. I think they're still deep enough that it's too much chips, and your opponent's not going to fold a king off it enough. And there's a whole bunch of draws you could potentially have.
But if your opponent has a random 9-8, and you know he's not going to blast off, Well, what do you think he has then? He's betting something. He's betting for the fun of it.
I think he has king, 4-5, ace 5, diamonds, like just a bunch of stuff that isn't 9-8 of nothing.
So what I'm saying is that he has equity.
Right.
So why not get him to fold his equity?
I don't think he's going to fold
And
it.
if he has a king. Oh, see, look, worst hand. Wait, no, maybe best hand. What happened?
What is that? Maybe like a jack 9 or something? What happened?
Take the pot, not move.
I'd like to know his hand. No, you're right. I still don't think I like the check shot.
Like, every hand has so much equity. So why give him free shots for these equities that are only going to...
Because you lose your whole tournament when he snaps you off and you're the guy with 1/3 equity.
That's okay.
I guess our loss in translation is my just getting the stack in a spot on the turn with like 1/3 equity is just not okay. Like I just really don't think they're shallow enough to make the shove a good play.
Right, because wasn't the bet like 1.2 million and the stacks are like 14 million or something?
No.
They were like 10 effective to start
10,
the hand.
but they already had 2 in there.
Right.
So there's 8 behind and there's 4 in the pot. I mean, it's a good shove stack. It's a little bit big. I mean, it is a little bit big.
I think the only hands that get shoved there are just draws, and so your opponent's going to end up heroing you too often. Like to jam 7 or 8ish over 1.2 bet. Like, oh man, who does that with like a really truly good hand?
There's already 2 in the pot or something.
Yeah, but if James has got King Jack or I don't know Ace King or a set, like does he ever just cram? Like never.
Doesn't matter. You're trying to balance for no reason.
All right. I think these guys are both thinking enough that there's value in balancing.
It's a crappy spot.
You're talking about risking all your chips in the event you're wrong as opposed to some of your chips in the event you're wrong.
You're wrong so rarely. And whenever you get called, you have outs whenever you get called. It's not like we're drawing dead. We have a pair and a flush draw.
But you're risking the whole stack to put it in. Like I guess you're putting the whole stack in with maybe like 20-something% equity, 30% equity.
Way more.
Against the top pair. All right, we should follow this instead of arguing. Let's follow this final table, and I'll argue about it.
30% equity. 30% equity.
Right, about 30% equity, and
5.25.
I just think
I
it's
like gambling.
Okay, I'm gonna let you gamble. I'm gonna stop trying to talk you out of it, and I'm just gonna press the call button next time we play that hand.
I hope this hand develops into something more fun. Like, let's have a fun turn card.
6. Wait, that doesn't change anything. 3.
No.
Boo. Well, that makes it a little bit harder for Ace 3 to be no good.
Interesting to see whether. And he decides, first of all, how does he check that?
Wow.
How do you check? Come on, man.
Check.
Wow, it checks again. If James... I'd say James should probably bet here, but I would not be shocked if he didn't bet.
I'm just stunned that James checked behind on the turn.
This is another spot where, like, what are you trying to get value from?
Yeah, I just want snap called.
He may raise.
No, he snap called.
Oh, okay.
And he shows aces in 10.
Yeah, I really don't like the turn check on Jake's behalf there.
And whenever you make a value bet on the river, you always have to think about what can they call me with that could reasonably be here that I beat. And also, how many hands could they have that are better than my hand that they could have made it here with that I lose to? Like right there, a lot of his hands would be ace X or 3, and he's going to fold a 3 on the river.
Yeah, all the kings tie.
All the kings tie. There's very little value in betting that.
There's almost no way you can get called by worse.
I think that's something a lot of like novice players miss is that that whole concept of can I even get called by worse, and if so what would they even call me with? And they
it's a result of thinking
overappraising and value betting in spots that they shouldn't be.
What they think is like, okay, my king's good here a lot of the time, so I'm going to bet. But it's not good whenever you bet and get called.
Yeah.
The king is going to win that on that river probably like 75% of the time or something, but not very often when you bet.
This is an interesting spot. So when Andy raised the button and James called from the big blind, flop ace 10, 5, all diamonds, check bet call. Again, I'm surprised that Andy checked back that turn.
Yeah, I probably would have bet the turn. There are a lot of diamonds that can call you.
There's a lot of diamonds out there too.
What is
and
going
straight
on?
Draws.
We have to get some James cards up here. What is happening?
And straight draws on the turn. I'm very confused by the turn play in this heads-up match.
875. 875 is the bet.
The Tony Dunn school of turn play.
Bet.
And should.
Ace 4 is good. Got paid.
4 for the win. And has a pair of aces.
Whenever you check the turn with top pair, you're probably getting paid on the river.
Is that right? 25?
He raises it.
Okay, so almost 30.
About 30,
30, wow.
31.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
I think it's about 20 to 10 right now.
It is about 20 to 10. With Andy leading, obviously. So even though it kind of feels like James has been getting demolished, he actually only lost 6 million chips.
Looks like he's going to make his first 3-bet of this match.
So what do you do with ace-2 here when you get 3-bet for the first time?
Usually I end up folding, but if I'm Andy, I'm probably a legend and I just 4-bet because screw it. Oh, instead he's going to call.
He's going to call and win post-flop. Now, I'd probably fold as well. This hand is one of those that's very dominated.
Yeah, ace-deuce just doesn't flop all that well.
And what's going to happen is if you miss, you're going to have a tough time continuing.
Yeah.
And if you hit and your opponent wants to put in a lot of money, you're going to have a tough time continuing.
This flop has turned out very well for the 4-5 of hearts, James Anderson.
You like his 3-bet?
Yes!
I like it as well.
Yes, I do. I think that's a great card to be, a great hand to be 3-betting with.
He's looking at his ace-2, and he's probably going to fold it. Maybe not. Probably.
He looks like he's gonna, doesn't he?
Anytime you see someone start to look sad like that,
Yeah.
they're
Like
usually
scratching their arm, and they just kind of he didn't see.
there and hang out for a few days. Get right down here to Atlantic City, play some poker,
500.
go to Philadelphia, have a party there, go back home. Make a nice week out of it.
It's 500,000 from Andy. King 8 of diamonds.
Oh,
on the
I
button.
love King 8 of diamonds.
That's a pretty hand.
It's
Looks
beautiful,
like
isn't
it's
it?
going up again.
Especially the blue ones.
I like blue.
I feel like he's going to call this too. I mean, they're pretty deep, and it's again a very small 3-bet if I'm seeing this correctly.
Although I'm getting some physical stuff off Wang now, which I hadn't seen the whole final table, but even a few moments ago, he just seemed kind of disinterested. I've never seen him throw the chips in just the way he just did either. He's changing it up a little bit here. I don't know what's happening.
Wow, no blue cards.
And this could get interesting because we have a King 7-5 rainbow with 1 diamond flop. So James has flopped a gut shot with a backdoor, which we know to be no good.
They have to put a 6 up there,
Yeah.
and then they have to put a 4 up there. I mean, I don't really see how else this
That's
can
how this
play out.
tournament ends, right?
I don't really see how else this can play out right now. Yeah, it's so weird. Why is Andy all of a sudden not stone facing it like he's done pretty much the whole time?
Right, he's had his hands cupped
Hey, what is he
over his-
doing?
He has his hands cupped over his face, am I right?
Maybe his Ritalin wore off or something.
And something has happened with this gentleman.
It's completely changed.
It's
It's so weird.
Going to make the rather clear call there. We'll go to a turn.
He did the Amanda play. I'm bluffing. Let me drink my water.
And
Oh,
that
no.
3 makes it kind of interesting. Oh, wait, sorry. I was thinking he had straight draw, not a pair.
He's got a pair.
He's got a pair. That's less interesting. I thought he turned a straight draw.
He still has a straight draw.
He
He
did.
does have a straight draw, I guess. But
This is a tough spot with the 3. I might actually check shove this 3. As crazy as that sounds.
man, you're so much crazier than I knew.
This is such a good card to check raise. Because if you bet, he's always going to call you with all better hands. So that's bad.
Yeah, I mean,
If you check,
usually just give up.
if you check, he's going to bet all of his floats.
Yeah.
You can't give up. Look how much equity you have, 20%. If you check, he'll bet everything, and then you can check shove, and he'll fold on everything but a king. So if he has 9-8, you just win. If he has a 7, you win. If he has a 5, you win. You win so often if you check. Check shoving strong. People, they just think it's the nuts every time. So whenever you play against me, heads up. If I check shove the turn,
John Little taking the opportunity on the broadcast to do a little image building.
I was just gonna, I was thinking it the whole past 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm only going to have
This
the
dude is
sets.
aggro now.
Do you guys think that Andy is like stone cold certain that he has the best hand here and he's trying to look miserable intentionally?
I definitely do.
I just haven't seen him do it the entire tournament, so I'm a little like perplexed here by the angle.
Wow, he did it. Man, I guess I'll call this.
I guess.
It did not look like a happy call.
We really need a 3 up here for kind of justice because of this ridiculous Hollywood act.
It's like that whole like fumble the chip around. Maybe I'll call. I call.
Okay.
Are we going to see a James Spaz? I think we may see a James Spaz here on this river.
What is that, an ace? I think it might have been an ace. Oh, it's a deuce. That's so irrelevant. Does he spaz?
I mean, I would think that if Wang is doing all this, if he is doing a little acting job here, it would be to induce that last bet there on the river. So I'm sure he's hoping for it.
Is he going to snap call if he shoves, or is he going to think for about 6 seconds and then call?
I think he thinks. I think he thinks about it.
Checked. Gave up. Now, so does Andy make a tiny value bet?
And he bets 500,000 so he doesn't get the C cards. No, it looks like he's just going to kind of try and put him in.
Yeah.
I don't really like a big bet here.
I don't like a big bet. I don't really know what calls you that's worse.
He didn't put him in. He bet 4 million or something. 4 point something. Yeah, I probably would have bet like 2.3 million. Because that way he's going to call and then he can laugh.
I mean, for James to call here, he's decided that Andy has specifically 8-6.
Or some random ace high hand.
I guess like 8-9 or something.
Ace 8, 9-8, ace queen, ace jack that he somehow in here with.
That he heroed.
Wow, he might look him up.
I don't think
it could be all the acting too from Huang. Who knows?
This would be a ridiculous look up.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, we know
I
you
don't
got
like it
bottom pair.
already if he does. But
this is why you don't bet the turn. This is why you check shove the turn. Well, I mean, I don't really see how you can call here.
That can't be great.
Whenever you're at the table, though, it's so much different. You know, you're feeling all these pressures.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I've got a pair, and this guy is so crazy.
And he's running me over.
He spazzed out.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to get him. You want to get that vengeance. It's that ego. Can't let go sometimes.
Like in the booth, we see one reason to call. He could have 8-6, but in his mind, in James' mind, he's got like half a dozen. He's like, oh man, this guy's
any two guys.
He's trying to own me.
That's what he thinks.
Yeah, he's trying to own me.
I get that feeling at the table sometimes. I'm like, you know what? They probably have top pair.
I actually, you know what? When I played on day one with Andy a little bit, I was like, this guy's trying to own me. These little tiny 3-bets? What is this?
He thinks I'm awful.
Yeah.
He knows I'm a pro of some kind, so he thinks I'm terrible. It's like whenever you used to play on full tilt. If they were full tilt pro, you know they're awful.
Yeah.
That was the
calling card for awful.
Yeah. Man, I think he may talk himself into this.
He's taking so long now. I mean, we're past the point of Hollywood.
I don't think he's thinking clearly at this point.
I don't think he's thinking 400K pay jump.
This hat's doing a good job for his... Like, if I walked out in the hall and saw this guy, I probably wouldn't even know what he looked like.
Yeah.
I don't know what he looks like.
He looks like a lot of people.
Yeah, even though he has
that every guy kind of look.
He has that little hat on.
Oh, wow, I think he said, oh my God.
Andy shows a king and an 8.
Oh, wow, that's so brutal.
Tony's face palming.
That is so brutal.
Wow.
Like,
goodbye, Chippies.
Wow.
I mean, I just don't want to criticize it because he feels awful right now. It's just the worst feeling when you guess wrong.
Blind sack without screwing it up too bad. Take some breaths and relax. And if you're in Andy's shoes, you can't be sitting there. I'm about to win this tournament. You remember that time, also at Borgata, the guy went and got drunk.
When he was up like, what, 20 or 50 to 1 on Olivier or something?
Yeah, like 20 to 1. He had a 21 chip lead. And he went off and got plastered. And he ended up losing.
Dinner break?
Like, belligerent.
And he decided to do it against like the best heads-up single player in the world, so that's probably not smart.
Wow.
he didn't really pick a good spot for that.
And he loses, huh?
And he loses.
That's crazy.
So, if you have all the chips, don't be super cocky. Sit there. Remember, you have to play your game. Play it just like you have a 15 big blind stack or whatever your opponent has. And
it's like a call.
Okay.
All right, it's going to be ace-6 of spades first.
It's a good call. And actually, I think from the small blind, James can shove any 2 cards.
10-8.
10-8, all right.
With 10 big blinds from the small blind, you can win pretty much anything.
And this is for the tournament, and it's King, Jack, 6.
6 of clubs.
Well, still needs a 10 or an 8. There's a 5, and that spade draw as well, so that takes away some of the outs.
Oh, wait. That's a club.
I can't see the river. It's a spade, and Andy Wang is our winner. He's going to collect $730,000. James is going to go home with $438,000, and guys, pretty entertaining final table here. I mean, sometimes we get guys who dink and dunk a little bit, go back and forth. Everyone at this final table was unafraid.